I never believed in fate until the morning I left a post-it note on a black Mercedes with a shattered side mirror. The parking lot at Mercy General was already packed when I pulled in. My usual chaos of running late, coffee going cold in the cup holder, Danny's physical therapy appointment in 15 minutes. I was thinking about his progress, about the insurance forms I still hadn't filled out, about the electric bill that was 3 days overdue. I wasn't thinking about the angle of my steering wheel or the fact that my passenger mirror had been loose for weeks. The sound was small, a crack, a tinkle of glass hitting pavement, the kind of sound that makes your stomach drop because you just know, that small sound is going to cost money you don't have. I sat there for maybe 30 seconds, hands frozen on the wheel, trying to convince myself I could just drive away. No one had seen. The parking lot was empty on this side, tucked behind the employee entrance where the expensive cars lived. I could pretend it never happened. But that's not who I was. That's not who my mother raised me to be, back when she still knew who I was. I got out. The Mercedes was the kind of beautiful that hurt to look at. Glossy black paint that probably cost more than my annual rent, chrome details catching the morning sun. And there, hanging by a thread of metal and wire, was the side mirror I'd destroyed, completely shattered. Glass scattered across the pavement like diamonds. You will feel so many emotions in this mysterious love story I'm about to tell. Please support us by clicking subscribe to the channel. My hands were shaking when I dug through my purse for paper. All I had was a pink post-it note, the kind I used to mark pages in Danny's medical binders. I wrote quickly, my handwriting messier than usual. "I'm so sorry. Here's my number. I'll pay for the damage. Lily." 17 words. I counted them as I pressed the note onto the driver's side window, my fingerprints smudging the perfect glass. 17 words that felt like a confession, like admitting I was the kind of person who broke expensive things and couldn't afford to fix them. I made it through Danny's appointment on autopilot, watched him work through his exercises with the physical therapist, his 14-year-old determination fighting against the cerebral palsy that made every movement a negotiation. He was getting stronger. That's what I focused on. Not the Mercedes, not the money I didn't have, not the fact that I'd just left my phone number for someone who could probably ruin me with a single angry phone call. 3 days of silence. I'd almost convinced myself the owner hadn't seen the note, that maybe the universe had given me this one pass. I picked up extra shifts at Rosie's Diner, the breakfast place where I'd worked for 2 years. The tips were good on weekends, and I was saving every dollar, building a small catastrophe fund for the inevitable call. It came on a Thursday morning at 6:47 a.m., but it didn't come as a phone call. It came as a man. I was behind the counter, the coffee maker hissing and gurgling through the morning rush. Rosie's had that warm, greasy spoon smell, bacon and maple syrup and decades of breakfast conversations soaked into the walls. I loved the predictability of it. The regulars who ordered the same thing every day. The way muscle memory took over during the rush so I didn't have to think about anything except pouring coffee and calling out orders. I felt him before I saw him. The diner went quiet. Not completely. The coffee maker kept hissing. Someone's fork still scraped against a plate. But the conversational hum dropped by half. That kind of quiet that happens when everyone's attention shifts to the same point in the room. I looked up into the reflection of the industrial coffee machine. He stood at the entrance. And he didn't belong. Not in his charcoal suit that probably cost more than my car, not with his perfect posture, not with the way he surveyed the room like he was calculating exits and threats. He wore sunglasses even though the morning sun hadn't fully broken through the front windows, dark lenses that hid his eyes but couldn't hide the sharp lines of his face or the scar that ran along his jaw, disappearing beneath his collar. Every instinct I'd developed over 24 years of staying invisible screamed at me to look away, to become part of the background, unremarkable and unnoticed. But he was already walking toward me. Not to a table, not to a booth, straight to the counter where I stood frozen with a coffee pot in my hand. Lily Bennett. His voice was smoke and expensive whiskey, the kind of voice that made you lean in to hear it better even though every cell in your body said run. I set down the coffee pot before I could drop it. Yes? He removed his sunglasses slowly, folding them with precise movements before sliding them into his jacket pocket. His eyes were gray, not the soft gray of rain, but the hard gray of steel. Empty and full at the same time. Eyes that had seen things and decided not to forget them. The one who dented my car, my mouth went dry. Up close, I could see the scar better. A thin white line that looked old but deliberate. The kind of mark that told a story you probably didn't want to hear. Yes, I have the money. Well, most of it. I can pay you weekly. Or, I don't want your money. The diner had gone completely silent now. Even the coffee maker seemed to hold its breath. Behind me, I heard Rosie stop flipping pancakes. Then what do you want? He reached into his jacket. I flinched, couldn't help it, and pulled out my crumpled pink Post-it note. He held it between two fingers like it was something precious and fragile. I want to know why you left this. I stared at the note, at my own messy handwriting, at the proof of my honesty that suddenly felt like evidence of something dangerous. Because I broke your mirror. Because it was the right thing to do. The right thing. He studied me with those steel eyes, and I felt cataloged, assessed, filed away in whatever system he used to understand the world. In my experience, people don't do the right thing. They run, they lie, they disappear, but you... He placed the note on the counter between us, smoothing it flat with one hand. I noticed his knuckles then, scarred, like he'd spent years hitting things that hit back. You stayed honest. I didn't have a choice. The words came out before I could stop them. That's just who I am. Something flickered in his expression. Not a smile, but a softening around the edges. I know. What do you mean? You know? I mean, I looked into you. Lily Bennett, 24 years old, 2 jobs, this diner and weekend shifts at County Hospital. Excellent credit despite significant medical debt. You take care of your younger brother full-time. You've lived at the same address for 3 years. You don't have a criminal record, not even a parking ticket. The coffee in my stomach turned to acid. You investigated me. I protect my interests. And whether you like it or not, you became my interest the moment you left that note. The way he said interest made it sound like both a promise and a threat. I forced myself to meet his eyes, forced my voice steady even though my hands were shaking. I don't understand. It was just an accident. A stupid accident in a parking lot. There are no accidents in my world, only choices and consequences. Then what's the consequence? He leaned closer, and I caught his scent. Cedar and something darker. Something that reminded me of the emergency room at 3 a.m. Gunpowder? Maybe. Fear? Definitely. The consequence is that you caught my attention. And in my line of work, that can be either the safest or the most dangerous place to be. What line of work? His smile was sharp enough to cut. The kind where people don't usually apologize. I wanted to step back, to put space between us, but the counter trapped me in place. I should get back to work. Yes, you should. But before you do, I need you to understand something. He straightened, putting his sunglasses back on, becoming once again the dangerous stranger who'd walked into a diner where he didn't belong. You dented my car. That makes you responsible. And I always collect on debts. I said I'd pay. I don't want your money, Lily. I want your attention, your awareness, because the world I live in doesn't forgive innocent mistakes. And the moment you left that note, you stopped being invisible. He turned to leave, and I should have let him go. Should have counted myself lucky that whatever this was had ended with just a warning and my heart trying to hammer through my ribs. But I couldn't, because there was something in the way he'd looked at my note, something in his voice when he said you stayed honest, that made me think this wasn't about a car at all. Wait, he stopped, his back still to me. What's your name? He looked over his shoulder, and through those dark lenses I couldn't see his eyes, but I felt his focus like a physical weight. Vincent Moretti. Then he walked out, leaving a $100 bill on the counter where he'd never sat, never ordered, never asked for anything except to know why I'd done the right thing. Rosie appeared at my elbow, her voice low and urgent. Lily, sweetheart, do you know who that was? Vincent Moretti, I said, my voice distant to my own ears. He said his name was Vincent Moretti. Rosie went pale. Actually pale, which was saying something for a woman who'd worked in this diner for 30 years and had seen everything. Oh, honey. Oh, sweetheart. What? Who is he? But I already knew. The suit, the scar, the way everyone had gone quiet when he entered. The way he talked about his world like it existed separate from the one where normal people worried about broken mirrors and medical bills. You need to stay away from him, Rosie said, but her voice lacked conviction. Men like that, they're dangerous, Lily. They're not like us. I picked up the $100 bill. It was crisp, new, probably straight from whatever bank handled the accounts of people who didn't need to count their money. I thought about my electric bill, about Danny's copays, about the 17 words I'd written because being honest was the only way I knew how to be. I think it's too late for that, I whispered, because when I looked at my wrist where I'd been absently rubbing it, I saw the bruise there. Purple-green, fading, but still visible. The kind of bruise that came from a hand gripping too hard, from a fight I never talked about, from a past I'd spent 3 years trying to bury. And Vincent Moretti, with his steel eyes and his expensive suit and his world where people didn't apologize, had noticed it. "From now on, no one touches you," he'd said, so quietly I'd almost missed it. "Not even you." The diner came back to life around me, conversations resuming, orders being called out. But I stood there with a $100 bill in one hand and the ghost of a dangerous man's attention settling over me like a second skin. And I understood with perfect, terrible clarity that my life had just changed in ways I couldn't predict or control. Outside, through the front window, I watched Vincent Moretti's Mercedes pull out of the parking lot. The shattered mirror was still hanging by a thread. He hadn't fixed it. The black SUV appeared the next morning like a promise I hadn't asked for. I noticed it when I left for my 5 a.m. shift at the hospital, just sitting there across from my apartment building. Windows tinted so dark they looked like holes cut into the fabric of the street. Engine idling. Exhaust curling up in the pre-dawn cold like smoke signals I didn't know how to read. I told myself it was nothing. Told myself paranoia was just another kind of debt I couldn't afford. By the second morning, the SUV had moved closer. Directly across from my building now, impossible to ignore. I could feel it watching me as I loaded my bag into my 10-year-old Honda, as I scraped frost off the windshield with a credit card because I'd lost my ice scraper somewhere between winter and survival. On the third morning, I'd had enough. I marched across the street in my scrubs and my anger, my breath making clouds in the November air. The cold bit through my jacket, but I barely felt it. I was so tired. Tired of being watched, tired of being afraid, tired of men who thought they could insert themselves into my life without permission. I knocked on the driver's side window, hard. It rolled down slowly, revealing a man who looked like he'd been built specifically for the purpose of standing between other people and danger. Square jaw, scarred eyebrow, the kind of muscles that came from actual use rather than vanity. He regarded me with the patient expression of someone who'd been expecting this confrontation and had already decided how it would end. "Can I help you?" His voice was surprisingly gentle. "You can start by telling me why you've been parked outside my building for 3 days. Mr. Moretti's orders, miss, for your safety." The name landed like a stone in still water, sending ripples through my carefully maintained composure. I didn't ask for a bodyguard. No. He shifted slightly, and I caught a glimpse of the shoulder holster beneath his jacket. "But someone spray-painted your car last night, and slashed your tires, and left this." He handed me his phone. The screen showed a photo of my apartment building, taken from street level, 4th floor, second window from the left, my window, and over it, painted in what I desperately hoped was red paint and not something worse, a large X. Crude, deliberate, unmistakable. The coffee I'd drunk that morning threatened to come back up. My hands started shaking before I could stop them, and I hated that. Hated that my body betrayed my fear before my mind could catch up and pretend I was fine. "Who?" My voice came out smaller than I wanted. "People who notice when Mr. Moretti takes an interest." He said it matter-of-factly, like he was explaining weather patterns. "He'd like to speak with you. Today. His office or yours, your choice." Pride made me want to refuse. Pride made me want to say I'd been taking care of myself since I was 18, that I didn't need some dangerous man and his dangerous world solving problems I could handle on my own. But pride was expensive, and the X on that photo made something cold and familiar unfold in my chest. The fear of being marked, of being seen by the wrong eyes, of mattering to people who hurt you for mattering. I'd spent 3 years building a life where I was no one special. A waitress, a hospital aide, a sister who showed up for physical therapy and paid bills late, but paid them. Invisible in all the ways that kept you safe. And Vincent Moretti had destroyed that invisibility in less than a week. Fine. I handed back the phone, my voice steadier than my hands. "Tell him I'll meet him after my shift. 6 o'clock. Somewhere public. The man, he'd later tell me his name was Marco, almost smiled. "Mr. Moretti doesn't do public, miss, but I'll make sure you're comfortable. That's not reassuring. It's not meant to be. It's meant to be true." He gave me an address in the financial district, the kind of neighborhood where my Honda would look like exactly what it was, proof that I didn't belong. Then he took a photo of my slashed tires with an efficiency that suggested he'd documented crime scenes before. "I'll have these replaced by the time you're home. Mr. Moretti's covering the cost. I don't want his money. Respectfully, miss, this isn't about what you want. Someone targeted you because of him. That makes it his responsibility." I wanted to argue. Wanted to explain that I'd been handling my own problems since my mother chose her boyfriend over her daughter. Since I'd taken Danny and run. Since I'd learned that asking for help was just another way of giving someone power over you. But Marco was already rolling up his window, already reaching for his radio to report that the target, that's what I was now, a target, had been secured. I drove to work with my rearview mirror full of that black SUV, and I understood with sick certainty that my life had been divided into before and after. Before the note. After Vincent Moretti. The restaurant was called Marcella's, and it was the kind of place where the prices weren't listed on the menu because if you had to ask, you couldn't afford to eat there. All dark wood and soft lighting and waiters who moved like dancers, anticipating needs before they were spoken. I felt obscene in my hospital scrubs and worn sneakers, like I'd tracked something dirty into a place that had been carefully cleaned of anything real. The hostess didn't ask my name. She just smiled, practiced, perfect, and said, "Right this way, Ms. Bennett." Of course he'd told them I was coming. Of course they knew. She led me through the main dining room to a private area in the back, separated by frosted glass doors that probably cost more than my monthly rent. And there, at a table set for two with wine glasses that caught the light like promises, sat Vincent Moretti. He was reading when I entered, not his phone, an actual book, leather-bound and worn at the edges like it had been opened and reopened until the spine learned the shape of his hands. Something about that detail unsettled me more than the gun I could see in his shoulder holster when his jacket shifted as he stood. "You read?" The words came out stupid. Obvious. "You're surprised." He closed the book. I caught a glimpse of Cyrillic letters on the spine and pulled out my chair. People usually are. They see the suits and the scars and assume the inside matches. I sat because my legs had stopped working properly, because the gesture was so unexpectedly courteous it short-circuited my prepared defenses. "What are you reading?" "Dostoevsky. Crime and Punishment." He settled back into his chair with the ease of someone who'd never had to worry about whether he belonged in expensive places. Seemed appropriate given the circumstances. "Which part? The crime or the punishment?" His smile was sharp and genuine. "Both, depending on the day." A waiter appeared with wine, red, expensive, already breathing in a crystal decanter. Vincent poured without asking if I wanted any, the gesture somehow managing to be both presumptuous and oddly intimate. "I've handled the immediate threat." His tone shifted to business, all warmth evaporating. "The men who marked your car won't bother you again. But there's a larger problem." He slid a folder across the table, cream-colored, expensive, containing what I already knew would be my entire life reduced to data points and vulnerabilities. I opened it anyway, because not looking felt like cowardice, and I'd survived too much to be a coward now. My credit report, my employment history, Danny's medical records, every surgery, every therapy session, every bill that had turned my 20s into a long negotiation with debt collectors and payment plans, my lease agreement, my bank statements showing the mathematical proof of how I robbed Peter to pay Paul every single month. "You have excellent credit," Vincent continued, his voice clinical. "Despite medical debt of $47,000 for your brother's ongoing treatment, you're 3 months behind on rent. You work 70 hours a week between 2 jobs. And you wrote me a note promising to pay for a $3,000 mirror. My face burned hot enough to hurt. You had no right. I protect my interests." His eyes softened slightly, and somehow that was worse than if he'd stayed cold. "And whether you like it or not, Lily, you became my interest the moment you left that note. My enemies will use that. They already are. I'm not your interest. I'm just someone who dented your car. You think I investigate everyone who damages my property?" He leaned forward, and the candlelight caught the scar on his jaw, making it look fresh. "You apologized. You left your phone number. You stayed honest in a world where everyone lies. That made you interesting, and interesting means valuable, and valuable means target. I closed the folder, pushed it back across the table. Your bodyguard already explained. I'm bait for people who want to hurt you. Yes, no hesitation, no sugarcoating. But I can keep you safe. You and Danny. In exchange for what? Vincent pulled out another folder. This one was thicker, more official, with a contract paper clipped to the inside. Work for me. My office needs someone honest, someone who apologizes for accidents and means it, someone who can't be bought or intimidated because she's already surviving the unsurvivable. I stared at the contract like it might bite. Doing what? Personal assistant, managing schedules, handling correspondence, attending meetings. Nothing illegal. Nothing that compromises whatever moral code keeps you writing apology notes to strangers. And you'll what? Pay my rent, clear my debt? All of it. He said it like it was nothing, like $47,000 was the kind of money you found between couch cushions. Danny's treatment will be covered, private specialists, better equipment, whatever he needs. Your rent paid through the end of the year, a salary that actually reflects the work you do. It was too much. Too good. The kind of offer that came with invisible strings that would slowly tighten until you couldn't breathe. Why? My voice shook despite my best efforts. Why would you do this? Vincent was quiet for a long moment, studying his wine glass like it held answers he wasn't sure he wanted to find. When he spoke, his voice was softer than I'd heard it. Because I know what it's like to be trapped by circumstances you didn't choose. Because I have more money than I'll ever need and you're drowning in debt for taking care of someone you love. And because... He stopped, something vulnerable flickering across his face before his mask snapped back into place. Because you were chosen as a message, Lily. Someone wanted to hurt me by hurting you. And I don't respond well to threats against what's mine. I'm not yours. Not yet. He pushed the contract closer. But you could be protected, provided for, safe. That's not the same as free. No, it's not. His honesty was brutal, refreshing. But freedom is overrated when you're dead or watching someone you love suffer because you're too proud to accept help. I thought about Danny, about his smile when I showed up for therapy sessions, the way he pushed himself harder when he knew I was watching, about the medical bills stacked on my kitchen counter, the collection agency calls I'd stopped answering, the guilt that tasted like copper in my mouth every time I had to choose between his copay and groceries. I thought about the X painted over my window, about men in masks who knew where I lived, where I slept, where I was most vulnerable. I need time to think. You have until I finish this wine. Vincent checked his watch. Expensive, mechanical, the kind that measured time and craftsmanship rather than batteries. Your apartment isn't safe tonight. Someone's already been inside. The room tilted sideways. What? They didn't take anything. Just looked. Marked their territory. He reached across the table and took my hand, the gesture so unexpected I didn't pull away. Lily, I'm not the villain in this story. I'm just the one with enough power to keep you alive while we figure out who is. His hand was warm, calloused in unexpected places. A working man's hand, despite the expensive suits, despite the power that radiated off him like heat. 1 month. The words came out before I could stop them, before common sense could override survival instinct. I'll work for you for 1 month. Then we renegotiate. 6 months. 3. Deal. He smiled, and for just a moment he looked younger, less dangerous, almost human. Welcome to my world, Lily Bennett. Try not to fix everything you find broken here. What if I can't help it? Then we're both in trouble. He signaled for the check, which never came because apparently he owned the restaurant, and stood, offering me his hand like we were sealing a business deal rather than signing away pieces of our lives we didn't fully understand yet. I took it. His grip was firm but not crushing. Another small courtesy I hadn't expected. Marco will take you to a hotel tonight, somewhere secure. Tomorrow we'll move your things to a safer apartment, get Danny transferred to a better facility, and start your employment paperwork. Just like that? Just like that. He guided me toward the exit with a hand on my lower back. The touch professional, but unmistakably possessive. In my world, things move quickly. You learn to adapt or you don't survive. We were almost to the front door when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't check it. Some instinct warning me that whatever message waited would change things again, would prove that deals with dangerous men came with prices you couldn't predict. But I looked anyway. A photo. My apartment building. But this time, the X wasn't over my window. It was over Danny's window at Mercy General, 2 floors down from where he slept, where he was vulnerable, where I'd left him alone because I'd been too busy negotiating with a mob boss to protect the only person who actually mattered. And below the photo, a message. We know where he sleeps. We know when you visit. Tell Moretti the price for his interest just went up. You have 24 hours to disappear, or we make sure your brother's therapy becomes permanent. JK. JK. 2 letters that opened a trapdoor in my memory that made my hands start shaking so hard I dropped the phone. Vincent caught it, read the message, and his expression went absolutely cold. Not angry, cold. The temperature drop of someone deciding exactly how much violence was justified. Who's JK? I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, because those initials belonged to a past I'd spent 3 years running from, to a man I'd promised myself I'd never have to face again. Jacob Kane. My mother's boyfriend. The monster I'd escaped but never quite left behind. And now he'd found me. Or worse, he'd been sent. Lily. Vincent's voice cut through my panic. Who is JK? I looked up at him, at this dangerous man who'd inserted himself into my life over a broken mirror and an apology, and I made a choice I knew I'd regret. My past. The words tasted like blood. The reason I know what monsters look like even when they're smiling. We made it to Mercy General in 12 minutes, a drive that should have taken 30. Vincent's driver, not Marco this time, but someone harder, quieter, ran every red light with the precision of someone who'd calculated the exact risk of each intersection. Vincent sat beside me in the back seat, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Italian that sounded less like language and more like weaponry being loaded and aimed. I understood none of the words but all of the meaning. Someone was about to pay for threatening my brother. The guilt sat heavy in my chest, right next to the fear. This was my fault. I'd left that note, stayed honest when I should have run, caught the attention of a man whose world operated on rules I didn't understand. And now Danny. Sweet, innocent Danny who'd never hurt anyone, who smiled through pain and pushed through therapy sessions with the stubborn determination of someone who refused to let his body define his limits, was a target. Because of me. Stop. Vincent's voice cut through my spiral. He'd ended his call and was watching me with those steel gray eyes that saw too much. Whatever you're thinking right now, stop. You don't know what I'm thinking. You're blaming yourself, wondering if leaving that note was the stupidest thing you've ever done, calculating whether Danny would be safer if you disappeared from his life entirely. My silence was confirmation enough. Lily. He reached across the seat, his hand finding mine in the darkness. Men like Jacob Kane don't need excuses to hurt people. They just need opportunities. If it wasn't me, it would have been something else. Someone else. You don't know him. No. But I know men like him. And I know that the only thing worse than having my attention is being alone when men like that decide you're interesting. The hospital loomed ahead. All harsh fluorescent lights and the smell of industrial cleaner trying to mask sickness. I was out of the car before it fully stopped, my sneakers squeaking on the linoleum as I ran toward the elevator bay. Vincent kept pace beside me, his hand on my elbow, steadying, not restraining. Marco and 2 other men materialized from somewhere, flanking us with the kind of coordination that suggested they'd done this before, protected someone scared, walked into potential danger with the confidence of people who knew how to walk back out. 4th floor. Danny's room was at the end of the hall, and I could see the nurses' station from the elevator. Everything looked normal. A night nurse I recognized, Sandra, kind-eyed and patient, was typing notes into a computer. A janitor pushed a cart past, headphones in, lost in his own world. Normal. Everything was normal. Except it wasn't. I felt it the moment we turned the corner toward Danny's room. A wrongness in the air, like the pressure drop before a storm. Vincent felt it too. His hand moved to his jacket, to where I knew his gun lived, and his whole body shifted into something more dangerous. Wait here, he said quietly. Like hell. He looked at me. Really looked, like he was seeing something he hadn't expected, and nodded. Stay behind me. Danny's door was open. It shouldn't have been. He always closed it at night. needed the darkness and quiet to sleep. I pushed past Vincent despite his growled warning, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. Danny was in his bed, asleep, breathing steady, completely fine. But standing over him, checking his IV line with the efficient movements of someone who knew exactly what they were doing, was a man in scrubs I'd never seen before. Too tall, shoulders too broad. The way he held himself all wrong. Military posture, not medical. Step away from him. My voice came out steadier than I felt. The fake orderly turned, and his face was professionally blank. Pleasant, even. Just checking the line. It was beeping. It wasn't beeping. And you're not his nurse. New rotation. Started this week. Vincent moved past me, positioning himself between the fake orderly and Danny's bed. The movement was casual, unhurried, but there was a threat in it that even someone untrained could read. Marco and the other men blocked the doorway. Hospital ID, Vincent said quietly. Let me see it. The fake orderly's hand moved toward his pocket. Too fast, wrong angle. And then everything happened at once. Marco was on him before I could scream, one hand clamping over his mouth, the other twisting his arm behind his back with practiced efficiency. The fake orderly struggled, tried to shout, but Marco's grip was absolute. Vincent was already moving, checking Danny, pulse, breathing, pupils. His hands were gentle, certain, moving with the kind of knowledge that suggested this wasn't his first time assessing someone for poisoning or harm. He's fine. Vincent's voice was calm, controlled. Whatever they planned, they didn't have time to execute it. Get him out of here. I couldn't look at the fake orderly, could only stare at Danny's sleeping face, at the innocence that I'd somehow put at risk. Now, they took him into the hallway. I heard muffled sounds of a struggle, then nothing. Silence that suggested Marco had found a very effective way to ensure cooperation. I sank into the chair beside Danny's bed, my legs finally giving out. My hands were shaking so badly I had to clasp them together to make them stop. Vincent crouched in front of me, his face level with mine. Lily, look at me. I couldn't. If I looked at him, if I acknowledged what had almost happened, the fear would win and I'd never get it back under control. Lily. His hands cupped my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. Your brother is safe. Do you hear me? He's safe. For how long? The words came out broken. Until the next time. Until they send someone better at pretending. Until I can't get here fast enough. Until I make sure this never happens again. Something in his voice made me finally look at him. Really look. And what I saw in those steel gray eyes wasn't the cold calculation I'd expected. It was fury. Raw, barely contained fury that someone had dared to threaten a child to get to him. I'm going to handle this, he said quietly. But first, we need to secure Danny. Better facility, private room, armed guards. No one gets near him without clearance from me personally. I can't afford. I'm not asking you to pay. His thumbs traced my cheekbones, wiping away tears I hadn't known I was crying. This is my responsibility. They came after him to hurt me. That makes protecting him my job. Why? I whispered. Why do you care so much about some waitress who dented your car? Vincent was quiet for a long moment, something vulnerable flickering across his face. Because 15 years ago, someone I loved needed protection, and I was too arrogant to see the threat until it was too late. And because you left me an apology note when you could have run, and that kind of honesty is so rare in my world that I'm not willing to let it be destroyed by men who only understand violence. His honesty hit harder than any threat could have. There was a story there, in the shadows behind his eyes. A wound that hadn't healed, just scarred over. Before I could respond, Marco appeared in the doorway. His expression was grim, professional. We've got a problem. Vincent stood, his mask snapping back into place. What kind of problem? The room's bugged. 3 devices, one in the lamp, one under the bed frame, one in the smoke detector. Someone's been listening to every conversation. They know everything. The violation of it made my stomach turn. Every private conversation with Danny, every reassurance that we were fine, every moment I'd thought was safe. All of it recorded, analyzed, used as intelligence. How long? Vincent's voice was ice. Based on the battery life, maybe 2 weeks. Since right around the time you first visited Mrs. Bennett at the diner. They'd been watching even then, planning this. Using my brother as leverage before I'd even signed Vincent's contract, before I'd understood the cost of catching a dangerous man's attention, Vincent pulled out his phone, made a call. Tony, I need a full security sweep of Mercy General, 4th floor. Every device, every vulnerability, every person who's been in room 412 in the last 2 weeks. I want names, photos, and last known addresses. And I want it done an hour ago. He hung up and turned to me. Pack whatever Danny needs for a few days. He's being transferred tonight. Where? Somewhere I control? Somewhere with security that actually means something. Vincent. I can't just... He has school, therapy appointments, his whole routine. His routine almost got him killed tonight. Vincent's voice was sharp, then softened when he saw my expression. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to keep him alive. You can visit whenever you want, stay with him if you need to. But he can't stay here. Not while Kane and whoever hired him are still out there. He was right. I hated that he was right. Hated that my entire life was being rearranged by forces I couldn't control. But he was right. I woke Danny gently. He was confused, sleepy, asking questions I couldn't fully answer. Vincent handled it better than I expected, speaking to him directly, honestly, explaining that there had been a security issue and we were moving him somewhere safer. Not talking down, not lying, just truth calibrated for a 14-year-old who deserved to know why his life was changing. Danny looked at me for confirmation. I nodded. It's okay. I'll be with you the whole time. Is this because of that guy? The one who's been making you smile different, out of the mouths of teenagers? Vincent's expression shifted. Surprise, then something that might have been pleasure. But he said nothing. It's complicated. I managed. But yes, kind of. Okay. Danny's acceptance was the simple faith of someone who'd learned to trust my judgment years ago, when I'd pulled him away from our mother's house in the middle of the night and promised everything would be okay. But I'm bringing my switch. Deal. The transfer took 40 minutes. Long enough for Vincent's people to disable the bugs, sweep Danny's room for anything else, and coordinate with a private medical transport service that probably cost more than my annual salary. We rode in an ambulance that looked normal from the outside but was reinforced with bulletproof panels, and driven by someone who moved with Marco's particular brand of controlled violence. The facility we arrived at didn't look like a hospital. It looked like a luxury hotel that happened to have medical equipment. Private entrance, underground parking, security that was visible and competent. A room that was bigger than my apartment, with a view of the city and equipment that made Mercy General look like it was operating in the dark ages. Danny was asleep again within minutes, exhausted by the midnight adventure. A nurse, this one vetted personally by Vincent, with credentials I couldn't have afforded to question, checked his vitals and promised to stay nearby all night. Vincent and I stood in the hallway, the adrenaline finally wearing off, leaving behind the shaky aftermath of fear and anger and too many questions. Thank you. The words felt inadequate but necessary. For Danny, for all of this. Don't thank me yet. His expression was dark. This isn't over. Kane sent that message for a reason. He wanted you scared, wanted you to understand that accepting my protection comes with consequences. Who is he working for? I don't know, but I will. Vincent's phone buzzed. He checked it, and something in his face changed. Lily, I need you to tell me about Jacob Kane. Everything. Starting with why you ran. The request felt like hands around my throat, squeezing. It's not relevant. A man who knew you as a teenager is now threatening your brother to get to me. It's incredibly relevant. He was right. Again. And the truth was, I'd spent 3 years building walls around those memories, protecting myself from having to speak them aloud. But walls didn't stop bullets, didn't stop men like Jacob Kane from finding the cracks. He was my mother's boyfriend. I kept my voice flat, clinical. Moved in when I was 15. She thought he was perfect, successful, charming. Everything my father wasn't. And he was. To her. Vincent's expression didn't change, but his hands curled into fists. To me, he was... I stopped, the words catching. He paid attention. Too much attention. Said things that sounded like compliments but felt wrong. touched my shoulder, my hair. Always when my mother wasn't looking. Made me feel crazy for being uncomfortable. Lily. I'm not finished. I needed to get through this quickly, like ripping off a bandage. It escalated. Slowly, carefully. He was patient. Made sure I knew my mother would never believe me if I said anything. And he was right. When I finally tried to tell her, she accused me of lying, of trying to ruin her happiness. How old were you? 17 when I left. Took Danny and ran, got a job, got an apartment, cut contact with her completely. I thought, my voice cracked, I thought if I disappeared, if I made myself invisible, it would be over. That he'd forget about me. Men like Cain don't forget. Vincent's voice was gentle but certain. They just wait for the right moment to remind you they can still reach you. He found me because of you. Maybe. Or maybe he's been watching all along, and I just gave him an excuse to act. The thought made my skin crawl. 3 years of freedom that might have been an illusion. 3 years of looking over my shoulder without realizing I should have been looking closer. Vincent's phone rang. He answered, listened for 30 seconds, and his expression went absolutely cold. Send it to me. He hung up and pulled me into Danny's room, away from the windows, away from any angle that might have a clear shot. What's wrong? My people found the bugs at Mercy General, but they found something else too. He turned his phone toward me, and I felt my knees go weak. A live video feed. My apartment. Someone was inside right now, going through my things with methodical efficiency, opening drawers, checking closets, photographing everything. And on my kitchen counter, placed deliberately where the camera would catch it, was a red envelope with my name written in handwriting I recognized. Jacob Cain's handwriting. They're in my home. The violation of it was worse than the fear. They're in my home right now. Not for long. Vincent made another call. I need a team at... He stopped mid-sentence, his attention snapping back to the video feed. The person in my apartment had stopped searching. They were standing in my living room, staring directly at the camera that was transmitting the feed. Then they held up a sign, written in thick black marker. Tomorrow, 3 p.m., Riverside Park. Come alone or we visit Danny's new facility. We know where he is. We always will. JK. The person pulled off their mask. Jacob Cain, older than I remembered, silver threading through his dark hair, but unmistakably him. He smiled at the camera, that same charming smile that had fooled my mother, that had made everyone think I was the crazy one, and blew a kiss. Then the feed cut to black. I was going to be sick. Actually going to be sick. Vincent's hand on my back was the only thing keeping me upright. Keeping me from collapsing under the weight of realizing that the past I'd run from had been waiting patiently for the right moment to pull me back under. I have to go. The words came out mechanical. Tomorrow. Riverside Park. Alone. Absolutely not. If I don't, he'll come here. He'll hurt Danny. Lily. Vincent turned me to face him, his hands on my shoulders. Look at me. You are not going into a trap alone. That's not negotiable. He'll know if you're there. He'll know because I want him to know. Vincent's expression was pure, calculated violence. Cain made a mistake tonight. He showed his face, confirmed he's in the city, gave us a location and a time frame. He thinks he's in control, isn't he? No. Vincent's smile was sharp enough to draw blood. He's about to learn the difference between threatening someone I'm protecting and threatening someone I'm willing to start a war over. The distinction felt important, but I was too scared and exhausted to parse it. What are you going to do? What I should have done the moment I read that first message. I'm going to make Jacob Cain understand that some debts can only be paid in fear. His phone buzzed again. He checked it, and the cold expression shifted to something far more dangerous. What? He showed me the screen. An email chain, forwarded from one of his people who specialized in digital forensics. Subject line, the Moretti girl. Messages between Jacob Cain and someone named Anthony Costello. Detailed plans to leverage Bennett's connection to Moretti. Payment schedules. Instructions to create maximum emotional impact without permanent physical damage. Jacob hadn't found me by accident. He'd been hired, paid $15,000 to terrorize me, to use my brother as leverage, to destroy whatever peace I'd managed to build, And the man who'd hired him, Anthony Costello, had included a note at the bottom of the last email. Moretti's getting sloppy. A waitress? This will be easier than I thought. Vincent looked at me, and in his eyes I saw a promise. Not safety, not comfort. Justice. Tomorrow at Riverside Park, he said quietly. Kane is going to learn that the waitress he's threatening is under my protection, and that I don't negotiate with men who hurt children to prove a point. Vincent, go back to Danny. Stay with him tonight. Marco and 3 others will be outside the door. No one gets in without my permission. Where are you going? He was already walking toward the elevator, pulling out his phone. To remind some people why they used to be afraid of my name. The elevator doors closed, and I was alone in a hallway that smelled like expensive medical care and consequences I hadn't chosen but couldn't escape. Through Danny's door, I could hear his breathing, steady, safe, unaware of how close he'd come to being collateral damage in a war I didn't understand. And somewhere in the city, Jacob Kane was waiting at my apartment with his red envelope and his threats, thinking he held all the power because he knew my past. He had no idea that he'd just given Vincent Moretti a reason to show him what real power looked like. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Another message. Not a photo this time. A video. Time-stamped 3 hours ago. I shouldn't have watched it. Should have called Vincent, called Marco, called anyone, but looked at that screen alone. But I watched anyway. Grainy footage of me at 16. Sitting in Jacob's living room, accepting a glass of wine with shaking hands. Young, scared, trying to please the adult I'd been taught to trust. And Jacob's voice, off camera, saying things that made my stomach turn. Grooming language disguised as compliments, predatory attention masquerading as care. The video ended with text. Remember this, Lily? I have hours more. Moretti can't protect you from the truth. 3 p.m. tomorrow, alone, or everyone sees exactly what kind of girl you really are. I deleted the video with shaking hands. Then I walked into Danny's room and sat beside his bed, watching him sleep, and understood with perfect, terrible clarity. Jacob Kane hadn't just threatened my brother. He'd weaponized my shame. The years of wondering if I'd somehow invited his attention, if I'd been wrong to feel afraid, if I was the crazy one for seeing danger where my mother saw love. And now he was betting that shame would make me walk into his trap alone rather than risk Vincent, or anyone, knowing what I'd survived. He was wrong, but he was also right. Because tomorrow at 3 p.m., I was going to Riverside Park. And I was going to face the man who'd taught me that monsters wear charming smiles. Whether Vincent came with me or not, I didn't sleep. I sat in the chair beside Danny's bed watching the city lights through the window, watching the way darkness held the world differently at 3 a.m., softer, more honest, stripped of the performance daylight demanded. My phone sat heavy in my pocket, the deleted video living on in muscle memory, in the way my hands couldn't quite stop shaking. Jacob Kane had always been good at finding the exact place where shame and fear intersected. At 16, I hadn't had words for what he was doing, just the sick certainty that something was wrong, that my body's instinct to recoil was smarter than my mind's desperate attempt to be polite, to not cause problems, to not ruin my mother's happiness. Now I had words: grooming, predation, abuse. But words didn't erase the footage, didn't change the fact that somewhere, Jacob had evidence of my younger self trying to survive by being compliant. And he was betting I'd rather walk into danger than let anyone see it. The door opened quietly. Vincent, moving through the darkness like he belonged to it, like shadows were just another language he spoke fluently. He'd changed clothes, dark jeans, black sweater, no tie. The gun was still there, visible now in a hip holster, no longer hidden by expensive tailoring. He looked tired. Not physically. Vincent Moretti probably hadn't been physically tired since he learned that showing weakness was dangerous. But tired in the way that came from carrying too much weight for too long. "You're supposed to be sleeping," he said quietly, settling into the other chair without asking permission. "So are you. I don't sleep much. Haven't for years." He leaned back, his gaze finding the window, the city. 3, maybe 4 hours a night. My father used to say sleep was for people who could afford to be vulnerable. That sounds like terrible advice. Most of his advice was, but he wasn't wrong about that part. We sat in silence for a moment, the kind that felt less like awkwardness and more like two people too exhausted to perform normalcy. Danny's breathing filled the quiet, steady and sure, A metronome keeping time while the world outside his door operated on different rules. I handled the immediate threat, Vincent said finally. Kane won't be in your apartment anymore. My people swept it, removed his envelope, changed your locks. You can go back when you're ready. What was in the envelope? More of the same. Videos, photos, evidence he's been documenting since you were 16. He's methodical. I'll give him that. The clinical tone was mercy, I realized. Vincent offering me distance from the violation by treating it like intelligence, like data to be analyzed rather than trauma to be survived. And Costello, the man who hired him? Vincent's expression went cold. Anthony Costello is a problem I've been avoiding for years. He and my father had an arrangement. Territories, business dealings, the kind of peace that only works when both sides are too powerful to risk open war. When my father died and I took over, Costello assumed that meant the old rules no longer applied. Why? Because I was 28 and preferred books to bullets. Because I cleaned up my father's worst operations, the trafficking and protection rackets that made us monsters. Because I wanted to build something that didn't require constant violence to maintain. He said it without pride or shame, just fact. This was who Vincent Moretti was, the man who'd inherited an empire built on fear and was trying to terraform it into something that might let him sleep more than 4 hours a night. Costello thought that made me weak. Vincent continued. So he's been testing me. Small provocations at first, poaching my people, undercutting my legitimate businesses. When I didn't retaliate with the kind of violence my father would have used, he got bolder. And then I left you a note. And then you left me a note. His eyes found mine in the darkness. You have to understand, Lily, in my world, showing interest in someone is a declaration. It tells everyone who's watching that this person matters, that they're under protection, that hurting them is the same as attacking me directly. So by investigating me, by offering me a job, I painted a target on your back. Yes. Vincent's honesty was brutal and somehow comforting. I should have anticipated it. Should have moved faster to establish real protection before Costello could exploit the opening. That's on me. You're apologizing. I'm accepting responsibility. There's a difference. I thought about that. About the space between apology and accountability. Between saying sorry and actually changing the circumstances that caused harm. Vincent didn't deal in empty words. He dealt in action, in the currency of power being wielded for or against. The meeting tomorrow, I said. Riverside Park. I'm going. We're going. His correction was immediate. And it's not a meeting. It's a trap designed to separate you from protection and make you feel like compliance is the only option. I know that. I'm not stupid. I never thought you were. Vincent leaned forward, elbows on his knees, close enough that I could see the exhaustion in the lines around his eyes. But I need you to understand what you're walking into. Kane won't be alone. This is Costello's operation, which means professionals, surveillance, multiple exit strategies. They're not going to hurt you immediately. They're going to try to take you somewhere Costello controls. Why? Because the real message isn't to you. It's to me. Costello wants me to watch you disappear. Wants me to know he can reach anyone I care about. Wants me to respond with the kind of disproportionate violence that will justify him moving openly against me. The word care landed strange between us, too weighted for our handful of days knowing each other, too honest to dismiss as strategy. So what do? Vincent pulled out his phone, opened a map of Riverside Park with annotations I couldn't fully read. We give him what he wants. We let him think he's winning. And then we turn his trap into ours. He walked me through it. The placement of his people, the sight lines, the timing that would put me in danger just long enough to draw out Costello's full operation, but not long enough for actual harm. It was chess played with human pieces, and I was the queen being sacrificed to force checkmate. I need you to promise me something, Vincent said when he finished. Whatever happens tomorrow, whatever Kane says or shows you, whatever shame he tries to weaponize, you don't go with them. You don't let him convince you that protecting me or Danny means surrendering yourself. That's a lot of conditions. Because I know how men like Kane operate. They're going to show you that video, maybe others. They're going to threaten to release them publicly, to send them to me, to Danny, to everyone you've ever worked with. They're going to make you believe that your past is a weapon they can use to destroy your present. His accuracy was unsettling. And if they do, Then you remember that I don't give a fuck about videos of you at 16 trying to survive a predator. Vincent's voice was fierce, certain. I care about the woman who wrote an apology note and stayed to face consequences. The woman who works 70 hours a week to take care of her brother. The woman who's sitting here at 4 a.m. refusing to let fear make her decisions. Something in my chest cracked open. Not breaking, opening. Like a door I'd kept locked for years, suddenly deciding its hinges worked after all. Why does it matter so much to you? I asked. Really? Not the strategic reasons or the power dynamics. Why do you care if some waitress gets hurt by her past? Vincent was quiet for a long time, his gaze distant. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of old wounds. Because 15 years ago, I had a sister, Elena. She was 12 when my father's enemies decided the best way to hurt him was through his family. They sent letters, made threats, showed up at her school. And my father, he thought the solution was more security, more isolation, teaching her to be afraid of everything outside our walls. He stopped, jaw tight. She killed herself 2 weeks before her 13th birthday. Left a note saying she was tired of being a prisoner, tired of being the reason people got hurt, tired of being scared all the time. The grief in his voice was ancient and immediate, the kind that never fully heals. Vincent. My father never recovered. He got meaner, more violent, convinced that the problem was he hadn't been ruthless enough. But I understood something different. That protection without autonomy isn't safety. It's just a prettier cage. He looked at me then, really looked, and I saw the truth behind every decision he'd made since finding my note. So when you ask why I care, Lily, it's because you remind me of her. That stubborn honesty, that refusal to let the world make you small or mean or afraid. And I will be damned if I let another woman I'm protecting feel like she's the problem instead of the person being targeted. The rawness of it stole my breath. This wasn't strategy. This was Vincent Moretti's wound, still bleeding after 15 years, shaped into something that looked like protection, but was really prevention. He couldn't save his sister, so he'd save me. Not for me, for her. I should have been angry at being someone's redemption project. Should have resented being the vessel for his unresolved grief. But I wasn't, because I understood the algebra of trauma, the way past pain shapes present action. I'd spent 3 years being invisible because Jacob Kane had taught me that being seen was dangerous. Vincent had spent 15 years building an empire where he could guarantee no one he cared about would ever feel that helpless again. We were both just trying not to repeat our worst moments. I have rules too, I said quietly. If we're doing this, if I'm accepting your protection and walking into Costello's trap and letting you reshape my life, then you have to give me something. Name it. Honesty. Complete, brutal, no sugarcoating honesty. I'd spent too much of my life with people who lied to protect me from truths I needed to know. You don't hide threats from me. You don't make decisions about my safety without including me. And you don't ever let me believe I'm the problem when I'm the target. Vincent extended his hand across the space between our chairs. Deal. But I have 3 rules for you. Of course you do. His smile was slight but genuine. First, you don't lie to me. Not to protect my feelings, not to avoid consequences. In my world, a lie can get people killed. I'm not a liar. No. You're compulsively honest, which is almost as dangerous. But I need to know I can trust what you tell me, even when it's something I don't want to hear. I nodded slowly, understanding the weight of that. In Vincent's world, trust wasn't emotional. It was structural. The foundation everything else was built on. Second, you tell me where you're going. Always. Not because I'm controlling, but because I need to know where to find you if things go wrong. And third, Vincent's expression shifted, something vulnerable flickering across his face before his mask snapped back into place. You don't sacrifice yourself. Not for Danny, not for me, not for anyone. Because if something happens to you, if they take you or hurt you or make you disappear, there's no line I won't cross to get you back. And you need to understand what that means. The things I'll do, the people I'll destroy, the version of me you'll see. You're trying to scare me. I'm trying to be honest. You asked for brutal truth. This is it. I'm not the hero in this story, Lily. I'm just the man with enough power to keep you alive while we figure out who the real villain is." The city lights caught in his eyes, and I saw it then. The loneliness that came from being the monster everyone needed but no one could love. The isolation of power. The weight of being Vincent Moretti, mob boss and businessman and broken older brother who couldn't save the one person who mattered most. My hand moved before my brain could stop it, reaching out to touch the scar along his jaw. He went absolutely still under my fingertips. Like no one had touched him gently in so long, he'd forgotten how to respond. "Who hurt you?" I whispered. "Someone I trusted." His hand came up to cover mine, pressing it against his face. The calluses I'd noticed before were rough against my knuckles. Working man's hands despite the expensive suits and the power. A long time ago. "And you never trusted anyone again." "No." His thumb stroked across my knuckles, the gesture achingly tender. Until a woman left an apologetic post-it note and stayed to pay her debts instead of running. The moment stretched between us, intimate and terrifying. We were two people who'd learned the wrong lessons from trauma. Me that invisibility meant safety, him that control meant protection, recognizing in each other the possibility of different rules. Vincent pulled back first, breaking the contact, and I felt the loss of his warmth like a physical thing. "Tomorrow at Riverside Park," he said, his voice back to business, "Kane is going to try to isolate you emotionally before he tries to isolate you physically. He'll show you the videos, threaten exposure, make you believe that accepting help is the same as admitting weakness. And when he does, you remember that you're not 16 anymore. You're not powerless. And you're not alone. The simplicity of it, you're not alone, hit harder than any elaborate reassurance could have. Because that's what Jacob Kane had taken from me, what my mother's disbelief had reinforced. The certainty that when things went wrong, I'd be facing them by myself. Vincent stood, offered me his hand. "Come on. You should try to sleep, even if it's just for a few hours." "Where?" "There's a private room down the hall. Security, comfortable bed, door that locks from the inside." He read my hesitation. "I'll be in the room next to yours. And Marco will be outside both doors. You're safe here, Lily. I promise." I took his hand, let him pull me to my feet. We were standing too close, close enough that I could feel the heat of him, smell the cedar and gunpowder that seemed to be his signature. "Thank you," I said, "for telling me about Elena, for being honest. Thank you for asking, for making honesty feel like something other than a liability." He walked me to the room he'd mentioned. Clean, minimalist, the kind of space designed to be temporary and unthreatening. The bed looked like heaven, and my body suddenly remembered it had been awake for nearly 24 hours. Vincent paused in the doorway. "Lily, one more thing." "Yeah. Tomorrow, whatever happens, trust me. Even if it looks like I'm not there, even if it feels like you're alone, I will be watching, and I will come for you." It wasn't a promise. It was an oath. He closed the door, and I heard his footsteps retreat to the room next door. The lock engaged with a solid click. Through the wall, I could hear muffled movement, Vincent settling in, probably not sleeping, keeping watch in his own way. I lay down fully clothed, too tired to change, too wired to relax. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. My stomach dropped. But it wasn't Jacob Kane. It was a photo of Vincent, taken through the window of his room. Recent, less than 5 minutes ago. He was sitting on the edge of his bed, head in his hands, looking more human and broken than I'd ever seen him. The message below it read, "He can't protect you when he can't even protect himself. Tomorrow, 3 p.m., come alone, or we send this and everything else we have to every news outlet in the city. The mob boss and the waitress. What a story." JK. I stared at the photo, at Vincent's unguarded moment of exhaustion, and understood the real trap. They weren't going to hurt me physically. They were going to use me to destroy him, turn our strange alliance into a public scandal, make my protection look like exploitation, twist Vincent's attempt at redemption into evidence of corruption. I could walk away, take Danny, disappear into witness protection or whatever program kept people safe from mob wars. Let Vincent fight Costello without the liability of protecting a waitress he barely knew. Or I could stay. Face Jacob Kane and whatever shame he wanted to weaponize. Trust that Vincent's promise, "I will come for you," was stronger than my past. Through the wall, I heard Vincent move, A quiet sound, like he just realized he was being watched. His footsteps approached the window, then stopped. My phone buzzed again, this time from Vincent's number. They're getting desperate. That's good. It means we're winning. Get some sleep, Lily. Tomorrow we end this. I texted back before I could overthink it. Your third rule goes both ways. You don't get to sacrifice yourself either. His response came immediately. Deal. Now sleep? That's an order. Not good at following orders. I know. It's one of your more annoying qualities. You have a list? A short one. Mostly endearing. I smiled at my phone in the darkness. And for the first time in 3 years, the fear didn't win. Because Vincent Moretti, dangerous, powerful, irredeemably complicated Vincent Moretti, had just called my stubbornness endearing. And tomorrow at Riverside Park, I was going to show Jacob Kane exactly what happened when you mistook survival for weakness. Riverside Park at 2:45 p.m. looked exactly like innocence. Autumn leaves scattered across walking paths, families with strollers, an old man feeding pigeons near the fountain. The kind of ordinary beauty that made you forget monsters existed. That danger could wear a charming smile and know your mother's favorite wine. I sat on the bench Jacob had specified, hands folded in my lap like a good girl waiting for permission to speak. The wire taped between my shoulder blades itched, a reminder that I wasn't alone, even though every instinct screamed that I was. Vincent had promised he'd be watching. Marco had shown me the positions, 6 of Vincent's people scattered throughout the park, invisible to anyone who didn't know how to look for predators hiding among prey. But Jacob knew how to look. He'd always been good at spotting vulnerabilities, at finding the exact pressure point that would make you question your own reality. He appeared at 2:58, punctual as ever. Older now, 52, I calculated automatically. But aging in that way certain men did. Distinguished instead of diminished. Gray at his temples that probably made him more attractive to the women he targeted. Still fit. Still carrying himself with the confidence of someone who'd never faced real consequences for his actions. He smiled when he saw me. That same warm, paternal smile that had fooled my mother, that had made me feel crazy for being afraid. Lily. He sat down beside me without asking, close enough that our shoulders almost touched. You look good. Different. Stronger, maybe. I didn't move away. Didn't give him the satisfaction of my fear. What do you want, Jacob? Straight to business. I like that. He pulled out his phone, swiped through something I couldn't see. You've done well for yourself. 2 jobs. Taking care of Danny. I always knew you had potential. The casual intimacy of his tone, like we were old friends catching up, like he hadn't spent 2 years systematically destroying my ability to trust my own instincts, made my stomach turn. The video you sent. The threats. What's the point? The point? Jacob's smile widened. The point is that Vincent Moretti needs to understand that some things can't be bought or intimidated, that the girl he's protecting has a history, that maybe she's not the innocent victim he thinks she is. I was 16. You were willing. His voice dropped, became almost gentle. Gaslighting as tenderness. I have hours of footage. Lily. You accepting drinks? Sitting close to me? Wearing the clothes I bought you? Your mother saw it. She understood. The old shame tried to rise up, tried to choke me with the familiar logic. If I'd just been clearer about my boundaries, if I'd been less polite, if I'd fought harder. But Vincent's voice echoed louder. You were a child, and I'm the last person who would judge you for surviving. My mother saw what she wanted to see. I kept my voice steady, clinical. Because you were paying her bills and telling her she was beautiful and making her feel special. And I was the inconvenient reminder that her happiness required her daughter's silence. Jacob's expression flickered, surprised that I was talking back, that the compliant girl he remembered had developed a spine. Careful, sweetheart. He leaned closer, and I caught the scent of his cologne. Expensive. The same brand he'd worn when I was 17. You're here because I allowed it. Because Costello wants Moretti distracted, wants him making emotional decisions, but I could just as easily make you disappear. Tell everyone you came willingly, that you're unstable, that I'm a liar. I turned to face him fully. You already tried that. My mother believed you. But that doesn't make it true. His hand shot out, grabbed my wrist, the bruised one from the zip ties, and squeezed. Pain flared hot and immediate. But I didn't flinch. didn't give him the fear he was looking for. You think Moretti makes you brave? Jacob's voice was low, dangerous. You think because some criminal takes an interest, you're suddenly untouchable? I've been watching you for 3 years, Lily, waiting for the right moment. Moretti just gave me an excuse. The words hit like ice water. 3 years? He'd been watching even when I thought I was safe. Even when I'd convinced myself that distance meant freedom. Why? My voice barely made it past my throat. Why couldn't you just let me go? Jacob's smile was intimate, possessive. Because you're unfinished business. Because your mother never believed you, and I want to make sure you never forget that. Because he stopped mid-sentence, his attention snapping to something over my shoulder. His grip on my wrist tightened painfully. Vincent Moretti stood 20 feet away, hands in his pockets, looking like he'd just happened to be taking a walk through the park. But there was nothing casual about the way he assessed the scene. Jacob's hand on my wrist, my rigid posture, the calculation happening behind those steel gray eyes. Lily. Vincent's voice was conversational, but I heard the warning underneath. I thought we agreed you'd wait for me before meeting old friends. Jacob released my wrist immediately, stood up with his salesman's smile snapping into place. Mr. Moretti, the infamous Vincent Moretti, I was just catching up with Lily. We have history. I know exactly what kind of history you have. Vincent walked closer, each step deliberate. Jacob Kane, 47 years old, contractor, 2 sealed juvenile records, 3 complaints filed by former girlfriend's daughters, all withdrawn after financial settlements, and a very interesting pattern of targeting single mothers with teenage girls. The color drained from Jacob's face. I don't know what she told you, but she didn't have to tell me anything. Vincent stopped directly in front of Jacob, and the height difference, Vincent had maybe 3 inches, suddenly seemed more significant. I investigated, because that's what you do when someone threatens people under your protection. You learn everything. Every sealed record, every settlement, every girl who was too afraid or too ashamed to press charges. Jacob's confidence was cracking, the charming mask slipping to reveal something uglier underneath. This is harassment. I'll call the police. Please do. Vincent's smile was surgical. I'd love to introduce you to Detective Morrison. She specializes in historic sex crimes and has a particular interest in predators who've avoided prosecution through technicalities and intimidation. I watched Jacob crumble in real time, watched the bully become the coward when faced with someone who couldn't be manipulated or charmed. It was cathartic and terrifying and not nearly enough to erase 3 years of looking over my shoulder. Now. Vincent's voice dropped lower. You have 2 options. 1, you disappear. Leave the state, change your name for all I care, and never contact Lily, her mother, or anyone in their family again. You become a ghost. Or I make sure everyone knows exactly what you are. Your clients, your neighbors, the single mothers you're currently targeting in Pennsylvania. I'm very thorough, and I have excellent resources for making information public. Jacob's hands were shaking. Actually shaking. This is blackmail. No. This is me being generous because Lily asked me not to kill you. Vincent said it so casually, like murder was just another business option. She's too good, too empathetic. She thinks you deserve a chance to disappear quietly. Personally, I think you deserve a shallow grave. But I'm trying to be better about respecting her wishes. The threat hung in the air between them, real enough that I believed it. Vincent would kill for me. Not hypothetically, not as intimidation. Actually do it. And sleep fine afterward because in his moral calculus, protecting me outweighed Jacob Kane's right to keep breathing. That should have terrified me. Instead, it felt like someone finally seeing the monster I'd tried to name and saying, yes, I see it too, and it won't hurt you again. Jacob looked at me then, and in his eyes I saw something that looked almost like regret. Almost. Lily, you have to understand. I never meant to. Stop. I stood up, my voice steadier than it had ever been in his presence. You meant everything. Every comment, every touch, every time you made me feel crazy for being uncomfortable. You're a predator, Jacob, and predators don't deserve explanations or absolution. His face hardened. You'll regret this. Both of you. Costello doesn't take kindly to... Costello is going to be too busy dealing with federal investigators to worry about his failed contractor. Vincent pulled out his phone, showed Jacob something I couldn't see. You made a mistake working with him. left a digital trail, and now you're going to use that trail to help federal prosecutors build their case, or you're going to face charges for everything you've done, including attempted kidnapping of a minor when you tried to prevent Lily from leaving her mother's house at 17. We have the police report she filed, the one that mysteriously disappeared from the system. Vincent's smile was pure calculated violence. Technology is amazing. Deleted doesn't mean gone. It just means you need better experts. I'd filed a police report. The memory surfaced slowly. 18 years old, 3 months after leaving, walking into a station and trying to explain what had happened. The officer's skeptical expression. His suggestion that family disputes were better handled privately. The way my report had vanished into bureaucracy, and I'd given up hope that anyone would believe me. But Vincent had found it, resurrected it, turned my forgotten attempt at justice into leverage. Jacob's whole body sagged. What do you want from me? A confession. Everything you did to Lily, everything you're doing for Costello, everyone else involved in this operation. You write it down, sign it, get it notarized. And then you get in your car and you drive until Pennsylvania is a memory. And if I refuse? Vincent's expression went absolutely cold. Then I stopped being civilized about this. And trust me, Mr. Kane, you don't want to see me when I'm not being civilized. The transformation was complete. Jacob Kane, the monster who'd haunted my nightmares for 3 years, was nothing more than a coward faced with consequences. He nodded slowly. Defeated. Good. Vincent gestured. And Marco appeared from nowhere with a tablet and portable printer. Marco will take your statement. Be detailed. Be honest. Because if we find out you've lied or omitted anything, our deal is void. They walked away. Marco's hand on Jacob's elbow, guiding him toward a black SUV parked near the fountain. I watched them go, feeling like I should be more satisfied. Like vindication should taste sweeter than this strange emptiness. Vincent moved closer, his hand finding my shoulder. You're shaking. I thought I'd feel different. The words came out small. I thought seeing him scared would make me feel powerful. But I just feel tired. Because revenge is exhausting, and closure is a myth. Vincent's thumb traced circles on my shoulder blade, grounding. You survived him, Lily. That's the victory. Everything else is just bookkeeping. I turned to face him, and the concern in his eyes undid something in my chest. You found my police report, the one I thought disappeared. I told you I'm thorough. His hand moved to cup my face, the gesture achingly gentle. And I told you I'd believe you. That wasn't a conditional promise. The tears came without permission. 3 years of shame and fear and wondering if I'd imagined the danger finally breaking through whatever dam I'd built to hold them back. Vincent pulled me against his chest, his arms solid and certain, letting me cry into his expensive sweater while families walked past and pigeons fought over breadcrumbs. He said he's been watching me for 3 years, that he knew where I lived, where I worked. The violation of it made me feel sick. I thought I was safe. I thought leaving meant freedom. Men like Kane don't give up that easily. They're patient. They wait for vulnerability. Vincent's voice was rough against my hair. But he's done now. I promise you, Lily, he will never touch you again. I wanted to believe him. Wanted to trust that Vincent's power could actually erase Jacob's presence from my life. But I'd learned that safety was temporary, that monsters were patient, that... My phone buzzed. Vincent tensed immediately, his whole body shifting into protective mode. I pulled back enough to check the screen. A video message. Unknown number. My stomach dropped before I even pressed play. The footage was grainy, security camera quality. My apartment building, but not recent. The timestamp read 3 days ago, the night before Vincent had first come to Rosie's diner. The video showed Jacob Kane entering my building, not forcing entry. He had a key. Walking to my apartment door like he'd done it 100 times before. Going inside, staying for 20 minutes, leaving with something in his hand. The message below it read, "He's been in your home multiple times. The confession doesn't change that. And the things he took, your journals, your photos, personal items, are already in Costello's hands. 3:15 p.m., the warehouse on Pier 9. Come alone or everything goes public. Not just the videos of you at 16, everything, Every word you've ever written about your fear, your shame, your survival. Will make you famous, Lily. The girl who seduced a mob boss to escape her past. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't process the layers of violation. Jacob in my home. Touching my things. Reading words I'd written in the dark when I thought I was alone. Private thoughts turned into weapons. My healing process weaponized against me. Vincent took the phone from my shaking hands. Watched the video with an expression that promised violence. When was this sent? Just now. While we were... It's a distraction. They wanted Kane to keep us busy while they set up the real trap. Vincent was already moving, pulling me toward where Marco had taken Jacob. Costello's escalating because we're winning. That's good. It means he's desperate. Vincent, if they have my journals, if they publish them, then they publish them. His voice was fierce, certain. And everyone will see exactly what you are, a survivor who had the courage to write down her trauma. That's not shame, Lily. That's evidence of strength. But I could barely hear him over the roaring in my ears. Because my journals didn't just contain my trauma. They contained everything. My feelings about Danny, my guilt over leaving my mother, my fears about being unlovable because of what Jacob had done, and more recently, my confusion about Vincent. Pages of trying to understand why a dangerous man's attention felt safer than invisibility, why his honesty was more comforting than other people's protection. If Costello published those pages, it wouldn't just humiliate me. It would expose Vincent to ridicule, make his protection look like manipulation, turn our complicated alliance into tabloid fodder. I have to go. The words came out steady, certain. To the warehouse, alone. It's the only way to... Absolutely not. Vincent's grip on my arm was gentle but immovable. That's what they want. To isolate you. To make you feel like sacrifice is the only option. They have my journals. They have paper. Vincent turned me to face him, his hands on my shoulders. But they don't have you. And without you, those journals are just the private thoughts of a woman who survived something terrible. They're not weapons unless you give them power. Marco appeared with Jacob, who looked smaller now, diminished. His statement was complete, notarized, signed. But his expression was odd, almost pitying when he looked at me. Lily, he said quietly, you should know. The journals weren't just about your past. There were recent entries, about Moretti, about feeling safe with him, about... That's enough. Vincent's voice could have cut glass. Get him out of here. But the damage was done, because Jacob's implication was clear. They'd read my most recent thoughts, the ones where I'd tried to figure out if what I felt for Vincent was gratitude or something more dangerous, where I'd written about the way his presence made me feel protected instead of caged, about the possibility that maybe trauma didn't have to define every relationship, about hoping. The phone buzzed again. A new message. TikTok, Lily, 3:15, the warehouse. We'll be reading your greatest hits while we wait. I don't know how to want someone without being afraid of them, except Vincent. With him, the fear feels different, like jumping instead of falling. Beautiful stuff, poetic, even. They were quoting my journal. Words I'd written at 2 a.m. last week, trying to understand why Vincent's intensity didn't trigger my usual panic. Private thoughts now being used to mock me, to prove I was exactly what they wanted Vincent to believe, a damaged girl with a crush on her protector. Vincent read the message over my shoulder. His expression didn't change, but something in his posture softened. Lily, don't. I couldn't look at him. Couldn't face the pity or judgment, or worse, the confirmation that I'd been stupid to confuse protection with care. I need to go. To the warehouse. To end this. We end this together. Vincent's voice was absolute. No more separation, no more traps. We go in, we get your journals, and we finish Costello's operation. But you don't go alone. That's not negotiable. They said, I don't care what they said. His hands cupped my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. You're not 16 anymore. You're not powerless, and you're not alone. Do you hear me? Whatever they publish, whatever shame they try to weaponize, we face it together. The certainty in his voice, the absolute refusal to let me sacrifice myself, broke through my panic. Because Vincent Moretti, dangerous, complicated, impossibly honest Vincent Moretti, was offering me something I'd never had before. Partnership instead of protection. Solidarity instead of salvation. Together. I said it like a promise, like an oath. Together. He kissed my forehead, the gesture tender and possessive. Now let's go remind Costello why it was stupid to threaten you. But as we walked toward the SUV, toward whatever waited at Pier 9, my phone buzzed one final time. A photo. Recent. Taken less than 5 minutes ago. Danny's new facility. His room. And standing over his bed while he slept, a figure in scrubs I recognized. David Chen, Vincent's most trusted advisor. The man I'd seen a dozen times in his office. Always loyal, always competent. The message below read, "You were wrong about who betrayed you. Come alone to the warehouse, or David makes sure Danny never wakes up. We're not playing anymore. Lily, 3:15. Final offer." I looked at Vincent, at the man who'd promised to protect us, who'd reshaped his empire to be better, who'd trusted the wrong person. And I understood. The real trap wasn't the warehouse. It was making Vincent choose between saving me and saving his organization, between the woman who'd written about him in her journal and the advisor who'd been planning his destruction for years. I had 15 minutes to decide if love, because that's what it was, wasn't it? This terrifying feeling was worth the cost of everything Vincent had built. The drive to Danny's facility felt like moving through water, every second stretched thin, every breath requiring conscious effort. Vincent was on the phone speaking Italian so rapid and harsh it sounded like violence being negotiated in real time. Marco drove with the kind of precision that came from understanding that seconds mattered, that the difference between protection and catastrophe was measured in minutes and decisions. I stared at the photo of David Chen standing over my brother's sleeping form and tried to reconcile the image with the man I'd met a dozen times in Vincent's office. Always professional, always efficient. The one who'd brought me coffee without being asked, who'd smiled when I'd accidentally called Vincent Mr. Morelli instead of Moretti during my first week. Betrayal, I was learning, didn't announce itself with villainous monologues. It wore familiar faces and knew exactly where you were most vulnerable. "How long?" I asked when Vincent ended his call. "How long has David been working for Costello?" Vincent's jaw was tight enough to shatter. Years. Maybe since before my father died. He stared out the window like the city held answers he was furious he hadn't found sooner. I trusted him with everything. My security protocols, my business operations, He stopped, but I heard what he didn't say. My vulnerabilities. This isn't your fault. It's exactly my fault. His voice was raw with self-recrimination. I got soft. Wanted to believe loyalty could be earned through treatment instead of fear. My father would have vetted David constantly, would have assumed betrayal until proven otherwise. But I thought that people could be good, that trust didn't have to be transactional. I reached across the seat, my hand finding his. "That's not weakness, Vincent. That's being human." His fingers closed around mine with desperate intensity. "Being human gets people killed in my world. Then maybe your world needs to change." He looked at me then, really looked, and something in his expression shifted. Less the mob boss calculating odds, more the man who'd told me about his sister, who'd read Dostoevsky at 3 a.m., who'd called my honesty endearing. "We're 3 minutes out," Marco said from the driver's seat. "Building is surrounded. David's still in the room with your brother. He's just standing there, waiting. For what? For Lily to show up at the warehouse." Vincent's tactical mind was already working through scenarios. David's the leverage that forces her compliance. But he won't hurt Danny unless Costello gives the order. He's too smart for that. Knows that killing a child crosses a line even in our world. So what do? Vincent pulled out his phone, showed me a live security feed from Danny's room. David stood exactly where the photo had shown him, hands clasped behind his back, expression neutral. Professional even in betrayal. "We give Costello what he wants." Vincent's voice was cold, calculated. "You go to the warehouse. I handle David." "No." The word came out sharp, certain. "You don't split up. That's what they want. You distracted while I'm vulnerable. Lily, we go together. To Danny first, secure him, then deal with whatever's waiting at the warehouse." I squeezed his hand harder. "You said we face this together. That means not sacrificing each other to solve problems." Vincent's smile was slight but genuine. You're learning. I have a good teacher. Marco pulled up to the facility's underground entrance, where 4 of Vincent's men waited with the kind of readiness that suggested they'd been preparing for war. Vincent issued orders in rapid succession: 2 men to secure the building perimeter, 2 to come with us, Marco to coordinate with the team positioned near the warehouse. If David moves, if he does anything that threatens Danny, you take him down. Vincent's voice carried the weight of absolute authority. Non-lethal if possible, but my priority is the boys' safety. Understood? A chorus of affirmative responses. Then we were moving, through the service entrance, up the back stairwell, weapons drawn but held low, professional violence ready to deploy. Danny's floor was quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that preceded either resolution or catastrophe. Vincent positioned us at the corner, gave hand signals I was learning to read. Wait, watch, don't engage until necessary. Through Danny's open door, I could see my brother sleeping peacefully, completely unaware that a man who'd smiled at me in meetings was now standing over him like a promise of harm. David hadn't moved from the photo's position. He was simply waiting, patient as a snake. David. Vincent's voice cut through the silence, conversational but carrying an edge that promised consequences. Step away from the boy. David turned slowly, and his expression was oddly relieved. Like he'd been waiting for this confrontation, maybe even hoping for it. Vincent. No fear, no guilt, just exhaustion. I was wondering how long it would take you to figure it out. 3 years too long, apparently. Vincent moved into the room with me behind him, positioning himself between David and Danny's bed. How much did Costello pay you? What was the price for 15 years of loyalty? David's laugh was bitter. It wasn't about money. It was never about money. Then what? Justice. David's voice carried old wounds. Do you remember my sister? Maria? She worked at one of your father's clubs back when you were still in college. Pretty girl, 22 years old, trying to save money for nursing school. Vincent went very still. I remember, she died in a fire at that club. 53 people died because your father had bribed the fire inspector, because he'd blocked the emergency exits to prevent theft, because profit mattered more than safety. I lost my sister because Dominic Moretti decided building codes were negotiable. The grief in David's voice was ancient and immediate, the kind that transforms into rage when there's no other outlet, and suddenly his betrayal made terrible sense, not justified but comprehensible. He'd spent 15 years getting close to Vincent, waiting for the right moment to destroy the son for the father's sins. I was 19 when that fire happened. Vincent's voice was carefully controlled. Away at school. I didn't know about the violations until after my father died and I took over. And the first thing I did, the very first thing, was settle with every family. Full restitution, medical costs, therapy. I couldn't bring them back, but I tried to what? Buy forgiveness. David's control was cracking. Your money didn't resurrect Maria, didn't give her the life she deserved. So I waited, got close to you, learned your operations. And when Costello approached me with a way to finally hurt you the way your family hurt me, I took it. By threatening a 14-year-old boy. Vincent's voice went cold. By terrorizing a woman who survived abuse. By becoming exactly the kind of monster you claim to hate. David flinched. I never meant for it to go this far. Costello said it would just be financial pressure, business complications. I didn't know about Kane, didn't know didn't ask. Vincent moved closer, and I saw the calculation happening. Distance to David, angle to Danny. Risk assessment if this escalated to violence. You told yourself you were serving justice, but you were just serving revenge. And revenge made you sloppy, made you use innocent people as weapons. Like your father did. Yes, Vincent's honesty was brutal. Exactly like my father did. Which is why I spent 5 years cleaning up his operations. Why I paid restitution I didn't owe. Why I tried to build something different. But you never saw that, did you? You just saw Dominic Moretti's son. David's expression wavered. Something that might have been doubt or regret flickering across his face. It's too late. Costello has everything. The journals, the videos, enough evidence to destroy your legitimate businesses and expose your remaining illegal operations. He's going to release it all unless Lily shows up at the warehouse alone. Then she won't be alone. Vincent's voice carried absolute certainty. Because unlike you, David, I learned from my father's mistakes. I learned that loyalty can't be bought or intimidated. It has to be earned through action, and I've spent 15 years earning it. As if on cue, the door opened and Margaret walked in, Vincent's lawyer, sharp-eyed and carrying a tablet like it was a weapon. Behind her, 2 federal agents in FBI windbreakers. David Chen, Margaret said formally. These agents would like to speak with you about your involvement in Anthony Costello's racketeering operation. Your communications with Mr. Kane regarding witness intimidation are particularly interesting to them. David's face went gray. Vincent, I cooperate with them. Vincent's voice was cold but not cruel. Tell them everything about Costello's operation. In exchange, I'll make sure they know about Maria, about why you did this. It won't erase your choices, but it might help them understand context. Why? David looked genuinely confused. Why would you help me after? Because my father wouldn't have. And because spending 15 years hating me didn't bring your sister back. Maybe cooperation will at least prevent someone else's sister from being used as leverage. The agents moved forward, reading David his rights with practiced efficiency. He went quietly, his shoulders slumped under the weight of 15 years of grief that had curdled into betrayal. When they were gone, Vincent finally let his mask slip. He sank into the chair beside Danny's bed, head in his hands, looking more exhausted than I'd ever seen him. I should have seen it. His voice was muffled. All the signs were there. His interest in security protocols, his questions about my personal life, the way he encouraged me to trust people faster than I should have. I knelt in front of him, hands on his knees. He spent 15 years building that cover. You're not a mind reader. In my world, I need to be. Vincent looked up, and the pain in his eyes was visceral. David was right about one thing. I am my father's son. I inherited his empire, his enemies, his debts. And no matter how hard I try to be different, people I care about keep getting hurt because of choices Dominic Moretti made decades ago. Vincent, I cupped his face, forced him to meet my eyes. You are not your father. You paid restitution he never would have considered. You gave David mercy when you could have had him killed. You protect people instead of using them. That's not inherited sin, that's conscious choice. Choice that almost got Danny killed. But didn't. Because you came. Because you brought the FBI. Because you've spent 5 years building something different enough that when David finally made his move, you had resources beyond violence to stop him. Vincent's hands covered mine, pressing them against his face. How do you do that? Do what? See good in me when I can barely find it myself. Practice. I smiled despite everything. And maybe because I'm learning that good and bad aren't binary. You can be dangerous and kind, powerful and gentle, your father's son and your own man. He pulled me up, into his lap, holding me like I was something precious he was terrified of breaking. We sat like that for long moments, 2 people who'd learned all the wrong lessons from trauma trying to figure out how to rewrite the rules. Danny stirred in his sleep, mumbled something about video games, and settled back into dreams that didn't include betrayal or federal agents. His innocence felt like both a gift and a responsibility. The warehouse. I said quietly, Costello's still expecting me. Then we disappoint him. Vincent's voice was steady again, tactical. Margaret's team is already executing warrants on Costello's properties. The FBI has been building a case for months. David's cooperation just accelerated the timeline. By the time Costello realizes you're not coming, he'll be too busy with federal agents to worry about revenge. What about my journals? The videos? Evidence in a federal case. Vincent's smile was sharp, which means they're sealed, protected. And even if Costello tries to release them, his credibility as a defendant will make them worthless as character assassination. The relief made me dizzy. Just like that, it's over. The immediate threat is over. Vincent's honesty was careful, but Costello has lawyers, resources, connections. This will play out in courts and negotiations for months. And there will be others who see opportunity in the chaos, who think my moment of vulnerability is their chance to move against me. So what do? We adapt. We stay vigilant. And we remember that surviving today doesn't guarantee tomorrow, but it does give us the chance to keep choosing how we respond to threats. Margaret appeared in the doorway, tablet in hand. David's cooperating fully. Names, bank accounts, Communication logs. He's giving us everything on Costello's organization. The DA is prepared to offer a reduced sentence in exchange for testimony. Good. Vincent stood, helping me to my feet. And Kane? Already in federal custody? Turns out his confession included details about Costello's other operations, money laundering, witness intimidation. He's looking at significant prison time even with cooperation. Justice, I was learning, wasn't always satisfying. It was procedural and slow and required patience I didn't naturally possess. But it was also real. More real than revenge. More lasting than violence. Danny needs to stay here for a few more days. Vincent was back in tactical mode, planning next moves. Full security, vetted staff only. Then we move him to a facility I own, somewhere I can guarantee every single person has been thoroughly investigated. Vincent, I can't afford. I'm not asking you to pay. His hand found mine. This is my responsibility. They came after him to hurt me. That makes protecting him my obligation. That's not how obligations work. It is in my world. Vincent's smile was slight. And you're in my world now, Lily, whether you like it or not? My phone buzzed. I almost didn't check it. Too exhausted for more threats, more revelations. But the sender was listed as Evidence Locker, FBI. And the message was simple. Video file recovered from Costello's property. Thought you'd want to see this before it's entered into official record. Agent Morrison. The video was short. Security footage from the warehouse, the one where I was supposed to have shown up alone. Costello was there, pacing, checking his watch. And at 3:15 exactly, when I didn't appear, his carefully controlled mask crumbled. He screamed at his men, threw his phone across the room, and in his rage revealed something Agent Morrison had highlighted in the transcript. Specific details about his operation, threats he planned to execute, names of corrupt officials on his payroll. My absence, our refusal to play by his rules, had made him so angry he'd incriminated himself on his own security cameras. I showed Vincent, who watched with something that might have been satisfaction. He expected you to sacrifice yourself, expected fear to make you predictable, but it didn't. No. Vincent turned to me, his expression soft. Because you're not the girl he thought you were. You're not the victim he needed you to be to make his plan work. I'm still scared. The admission felt important. This isn't over, and I'm terrified of what comes next. Good. Fear means you're paying attention. Vincent's thumb traced my jawline. But you're scared and still standing, that's what matters. Margaret cleared her throat diplomatically. I hate to interrupt, but we have a situation. Costello posted bail an hour ago. He's out. The words landed like stones in still water. Vincent went rigid beside me, his tactical mind already racing through implications. How? He had no priors. Clean record until today. Margaret's voice was grim. And he has excellent lawyers who argued he's not a flight risk. The judge agreed. He's out on $5 million bail with an ankle monitor, which he'll remove the moment he's somewhere his lawyers can't see. Vincent was already moving, pulling out his phone. Lily, you and Danny need to... No. I caught his arm. You're not sending me away. We're not doing the separation thing. We just established that's what they want. Costello is desperate now. Desperate men make emotional decisions. And his first emotional decision will be eliminating the people who destroyed his operation. Which is why we stay together. I held his gaze. You promised. No more splitting up, remember? Vincent looked like he wanted to argue, to use logic and tactical advantage to convince me that my safety required distance. But something in his expression shifted. Recognition that I was right. That separation was just another kind of trap. Together. He said it like a vow. But we do this smart. Safe house. Full security detail. And you follow every protocol without argument. Define without argument. His smile was quick. Genuine. I'm serious, Lily. This is the dangerous part. When they have nothing left to lose. I know. I squeezed his hand. But I'm not running anymore. From Jacob, from Costello, from whatever comes next. I'm done being invisible. Then we make you visible in a way that protects instead of targets. Vincent turned to Margaret. I need everything on Costello released to the media. His arrest, his charges, his connection to Kane. I want his reputation destroyed before he can rebuild. That's risky. It might make him more desperate. Or it might make him too busy managing his public image to focus on revenge. Vincent's strategy was cold, effective, and it sends a message to anyone else thinking about moving against me. Touch what's mine, and I will dismantle you methodically and publicly. Margaret nodded and left to execute the plan. Marco appeared with an update. The safe house was ready. Security team in place. Everything moving with the efficiency of people who'd done this before, who understood that in Vincent's world, safety was measured in preparation and paranoia. I need to get something from my apartment. The words came out before I could second-guess them. My journals, the ones Costello had copies of. I want the originals. I want to decide what happens to them. Vincent studied me carefully. Why? They're evidence now. Protected. Because they're mine. Because I wrote them in the dark thinking no one would ever read them. And now they're part of a federal case and I need to take something back. Some piece of control. Understanding flickered across his face. Okay. We go together. In and out fast. Marco and a full team. The drive to my apartment felt surreal. Police tape still marked the entrance where they'd arrested David's associates. My neighbors watched from windows, probably wondering what kind of trouble the quiet girl in 4B had gotten into. Inside, my apartment looked violated. Drawers open, papers scattered, the evidence of people searching through my life for leverage. But my journals were exactly where I'd left them, tucked in the back of my closet in a box marked winter clothes. 6 volumes covering 3 years. Cheap composition notebooks filled with handwriting that got steadier as time passed, as I'd learned to trust that Danny and I were actually safe. That distance from Jacob Kane meant freedom, except it hadn't. Not really. Freedom, I was learning, wasn't just physical distance. It was refusing to let your past dictate your present. Refusing to let shame silence you. Refusing to stay small because visibility felt dangerous. I packed the journals carefully, along with photos of Danny and me, the few possessions that mattered. My whole life fit into 2 boxes, a testament to how deliberately I'd kept my world small. You ready? Vincent stood in the doorway, giving me space but ready to move. Yeah, I looked around one last time. I don't think I want to come back here. Too many people have been inside uninvited. It doesn't feel like mine anymore. Then we find you somewhere new. Vincent's voice was matter-of-fact. Somewhere with security that actually works. Somewhere you choose instead of settling for what you can afford. I can't let you keep paying for everything. You're not letting me. I'm choosing to. There's a difference. He picked up one of my boxes. Besides, you're working for me now. Consider it an employment benefit. Do all your employees get safe houses? Only the ones Vincent stopped mid-sentence, something shifting in his expression. Only the ones whose safety matters to me. The almost confession hung between us, too important to rush, too fragile to examine in an apartment that smelled like violation and strangers, hands on my private things. We loaded the boxes into the SUV, Marco already scanning for threats with the vigilance of someone who understood that safe was temporary and required constant maintenance. The drive to the safe house was quiet, both of us processing the day's revelations, David's betrayal, Costello's arrest, the strange way danger and resolution could happen in the same breath. My phone buzzed one final time. Agent Morrison. Costello's ankle monitor just went offline. Consider him armed and dangerous. Stay wherever Vincent has you. We're mobilizing units now. I showed Vincent the message. His expression went cold, tactical. He cut it off, probably within an hour of being released. Marco, full alert. No one in or out without my explicit authorization. Vincent, if he's coming for us, he won't get close. Vincent's certainty was absolute. I've been preparing for this since the moment I learned about David's betrayal. Costello thinks he knows my security protocols, but those were all compromised information. My real defenses, the ones only I know about, are already in place. The safe house appeared. Not a house at all, but a luxury apartment building with security that looked military grade. Underground parking, biometric scanners, guards who moved with Marco's particular brand of controlled violence. Inside, the apartment was beautiful. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, furniture that looked expensive and comfortable, kitchen stocked with food I hadn't ordered. Everything arranged to be both secure and livable, temporary safety that didn't feel like a cage. Top floor. Vincent walked me through the space. Reinforced walls, bulletproof glass, multiple exits. Building security is mine, vetted personally, loyal because I pay them well and treat them fairly. You're safe here. For how long? Until Costello is back in custody. Or, he didn't finish the sentence, but I heard the implication. Until more permanent solutions were arranged. Vincent. I caught his hand before he could catalog more security features. Thank you. For all of this. For believing me. Protecting Danny, not treating me like I'm fragile or stupid or... He pulled me close, cutting off my words with the kind of kiss that felt less like romance and more like claiming. Desperate and certain and carrying all the words neither of us had figured out how to say yet. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, Vincent rested his forehead against mine. You wrote about me, in your journals, about feeling safe. You read them. The violation should have angered me, but his voice carried too much vulnerability for anger. No. David did. Then told me what you'd written, trying to prove you were just some infatuated girl with a crush on her protector. He thought it would make me dismiss you, treat you as a liability. But it didn't. No. Vincent's hands cupped my face. Because I'd been writing my own version. Not in journals, but in the way I kept finding excuses to have you at the office. The way your honesty made me want to be better. The way protecting you started feeling less like obligation and more like... His phone rang. Marco. Urgent. Vincent answered, listened, and his expression went absolutely lethal. Costello's at Danny's facility. He got past building security somehow, and he's demanding to speak with you. Says he has a gun, and unless you come down in the next 10 minutes, he starts shooting. Every negotiation, every tactical advantage, every carefully constructed plan, all of it meant nothing in the face of Costello threatening my brother. I was already moving toward the door. Lily, wait. He's at Danny's facility, with a gun, threatening to shoot people. I won't. I know. Vincent was right beside me, his hand finding mine, which is why we go together. But we do this smart. We give him what he wants just long enough to get Danny and everyone else safe. Then what? Vincent's smile was cold and promised violence. Then I remind Anthony Costello why it was a mistake to threaten people I love. The word love hung in the air between us, too big and too soon and too absolutely true to take back. But there was no time to examine it, because somewhere across the city, a desperate man with nothing left to lose was pointing a gun at innocent people and demanding I trade myself for their safety. And I was going, we both were, together. The facility looked wrong from the outside, too quiet, too still, like someone had pressed pause on a scene that should have been full of movement and ordinary chaos. No ambulances arriving, no visitors leaving, just police cars blocking the entrance with their lights painting the building in rotating blue and red warnings. Vincent's phone was a lifeline to Marco, who was coordinating with SWAT from a command post 2 blocks away. His voice crackled through the speaker, clinical and precise, describing a situation that made my blood run cold. Costello's in the 4th floor common area. He has 6 hostages, 2 nurses, 3 visitors, and a janitor. Gun is visible, demands are specific. Lily Bennett comes inside alone or he starts shooting every 5 minutes until she does. Danny? My voice barely made it past my throat. Safe. Still in his room with 2 of our guys. Costello doesn't know where he is specifically, just that he's in the building somewhere. The relief made me dizzy. Danny was safe. For now. But 6 other people, strangers who'd just been trying to work, to visit loved ones, to live their ordinary lives, were in danger because I'd caught a mob boss's attention by leaving an apology note. Vincent's hand tightened on mine. We're not doing this his way. He has hostages. People who'll die if I don't. People who'll die anyway if you walk in there. Vincent turned to face me fully, his expression fierce. Costello is desperate. He's already looking at life in prison, already lost his organization, already destroyed any chance of negotiation. Killing you won't save him. It'll just be revenge. And men seeking revenge don't care about collateral damage. So what do we do? Let him shoot innocent people every 5 minutes while we plan the perfect tactical response? No. We give him what he thinks he wants while actually giving him what we need. Vincent pulled out his phone, showed me a building schematic with annotations I was starting to understand. You go in, but not alone. Not really. SWAT has positions here, here, and here. My people have 3 snipers with clear sight lines, and I'll be 15 feet behind you the entire time, connected via earpiece so I hear everything. That's not alone. Costello will know. Costello is operating on adrenaline and desperation. His judgment is compromised. Vincent's certainty was absolute. He'll see you walk through the door and his brain will tell him he's winning. That's when people make mistakes. Margaret appeared beside the SUV, somehow looking calm despite the chaos. FBI negotiator is on site. They want to handle this without civilian involvement. Lily isn't a civilian. She's the target. Vincent's voice carried authority that made even Margaret pause. And Costello specifically asked for her. Refusing his demand escalates the situation. So does sending her in, which is why we do it smart. Vincent was already moving, pulling body armor from a case Marco handed him. Lily wears a vest, goes in unarmed, hands visible. She engages Costello verbally, keeps him focused on her while SWAT repositions. 3 minutes maximum, then they breach. I took the vest he offered, the weight of it both comforting and terrifying. This was real. I was about to walk into a hostage situation, about to face a man who'd spent months orchestrating my destruction, about to bet my life on Vincent's promise that I wouldn't be alone. Lily. Vincent helped me into the vest, his hands gentle despite the urgency. You don't have to do this. We can wait him out. Let SWAT handle it their way. No one would blame you for choosing safety. 6 people. I met his eyes. 6 people who did nothing wrong except exist in the same building as my brother. I can't let them die because I'm afraid. Being afraid and being brave aren't mutually exclusive. Vincent checked the vest's fit, adjusted straps with practiced efficiency. Fear means you understand the risk. Bravery means you act anyway. Is that from Dostoevsky? That's from 15 years of learning the difference. His smile was slight, sad. My father thought fear was weakness. I learned it's just information. Your body telling you to pay attention, to be smart, to survive. The earpiece he fitted was tiny, nearly invisible. His voice came through clear when he tested it. Can you hear me? I nodded, and his expression softened. Good. Then hear this. I will be with you every second. You are not alone in there. If anything goes wrong, if he moves toward you aggressively, you drop to the floor immediately. SWAT will handle the rest. Vincent, I can't lose you. The words came out raw, unguarded. I know it's too soon. I know we barely know each other, but I can't, I won't. I kissed him. Fast and desperate and tasting like fear, and something that felt dangerously close to the word he'd used earlier. Love. Too big. Too soon. Too absolutely true. When I pulled back, his forehead rested against mine. Come back to me. That's the plan. Marco handed me a phone. Burner. Untraceable. With a single number programmed. You call this if anything feels wrong. Anything. Don't be a hero. Heroes get killed. I repeated Vincent's earlier words. I'm just trying to survive until tomorrow. The walk to the facility entrance felt eternal and instantaneous. Police had cleared a path, SWAT positioned with their rifles trained on 4th-floor windows. I could feel dozens of eyes on me. Law enforcement, Vincent's people, news cameras capturing everything for the inevitable media storm. At the door, a SWAT commander stopped me. Young, competent, clearly unhappy with the plan. Ms. Bennett, you don't have to do this. We have protocols. That take time. And he's shooting people every 5 minutes. I kept my voice steady. I go in. I keep him talking. You do your job. 3 minutes. That's what Mr. Moretti said. Mr. Moretti isn't law enforcement. No. But he's kept me alive for the last 2 weeks when everyone else thought I was just collateral. I trust his judgment. The commander looked like he wanted to argue, but Vincent appeared beside me with the kind of presence that ended debates. Whatever he said to the commander was too quiet for me to hear, but it resulted in a reluctant nod. 3 minutes. The commander's voice was grim. Then we breach whether you're clear or not. Understood. Understood. The facility's lobby was empty, eerie in its abandonment. My footsteps echoed on tile that usually buzzed with visitors and staff. The elevator ride to the 4th floor felt like descending into something I wouldn't climb back out of. Vincent's voice came through the earpiece, steady and certain. I'm right behind you. Stairwell, 4th floor, 20 feet away. You're not alone. The elevator doors opened. The fourth-floor common area stretched before me, usually bright and welcoming, now transformed into something from a nightmare. 6 people sat on the floor, hands visible, faces showing varying degrees of terror. 2 nurses I recognized from Danny's care team. An elderly man who must have been visiting someone. A young woman clutching a child's stuffed animal. A maintenance worker still holding a mop. A middle-aged woman in business clothes. And standing over them, gun held with the confidence of someone who knew how to use it, was Anthony Costello. He looked nothing like the grandfatherly figure from the park. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his silver hair disheveled, his eyes carrying the manic edge of someone who'd lost everything and decided to take others down with him. Lily Bennett. His voice was almost pleasant. Right on time. I was beginning to think you'd let these good people die rather than face consequences. Let them go. I kept my hands visible, non-threatening. You want me? You have me. They're not part of this. Everything is part of this. Costello gestured with the gun, making several hostages flinch. Every person in this building exists because Vincent Moretti decided your safety mattered more than maintaining proper distance. Every life at risk is a consequence of his arrogance. This is about you and Vincent, not them, not me. Oh, but it is about you. Costello moved closer, and I forced myself not to step back. The waitress who wrote an apology note. The damaged girl with the tragic past who made a mob boss feel like a hero. Do you know how perfect that is? How poetic. Vincent's voice in my ear. Keep him talking. SWAT is repositioning. What do you want, Costello? Really want? I injected confusion into my voice, playing the role he expected. Killing me doesn't get you out of federal charges. Doesn't restore your organization. What's the end game here? The end game is watching Vincent Moretti realize that power has limits, that he can't protect everyone, that trying to be better than his father was a fatal weakness. So this is about Vincent's father, about old grudges. This is about justice. Costello's voice rose, losing the pleasant veneer. Dominic Moretti operated without conscience for 40 years. Trafficking, extortion, murder. He built an empire on suffering, and his son, his enlightened, reformed son, thought he could just pay some restitution and call it even. Vincent isn't his father. He's worse. At least Dominic was honest about being a monster. Vincent pretends to be civilized, pretends that reading books and making legitimate investments erases the blood his wealth was built on. But put pressure on him. Threaten something he cares about, and watch how quickly the civilized mask drops. There was truth in Costello's words, uncomfortable truth about inherited guilt and whether redemption was possible for men born into violence. But there was also the desperate logic of someone who'd spent so long seeking revenge that he'd become the very thing he claimed to hate. You're right. My voice was quiet, careful. Vincent is his father's son. He inherited violence and wealth built on suffering, but he's also spending every day trying to be different. Isn't that worth something? The attempt to break cycles instead of perpetuating them? Pretty words. Costello raised the gun, pointing it directly at my chest. Let's see if they stop bullets. Vincent's voice, urgent. Lily, down, now. I dropped to the floor as the world exploded into violence. SWAT breached from 3 directions simultaneously. Flashbangs, shouted commands, the controlled chaos of professionals executing a plan. Costello fired. I felt the shot pass over me, too close. And then he was on the ground. SWAT officers swarming him with the precision of people who'd trained for exactly this scenario. The hostages were already being evacuated, moved with swift efficiency toward the stairwells. Someone's hands, a SWAT medic, checked me for injuries, their voice calm and professional, asking if I was hit. No, I'm fine. Vincent was there, pushing past officers who tried to stop him, dropping to his knees beside me. His hands ran over my arms, my shoulders, checking the vest for impact, his face showing more fear than I'd ever seen. You're okay. He said it like a prayer, like a promise. You're okay. I'm okay. I let him pull me up, let him hold me while SWAT secured Costello and cleared the floor. Danny, safe, Marco's with him. Vincent's voice was rough against my hair. It's over. Lily. Costello's in custody, federal charges are solid, and you're alive. But it didn't feel over. It felt like standing in the eye of a storm, That brief moment of calm before the second wave hit. They took us to a conference room for debriefing, statements, questions, the tedious aftermath of violence. Costello was already being transferred to federal custody, facing charges that would ensure he never saw freedom again. David Chen's cooperation had given prosecutors everything they needed, and my testimony about Jacob Kane added witness intimidation to the list. Justice, I was learning, was messy and incomplete and somehow still better than revenge. Ms. Bennett. Agent Morrison sat across from me, her expression kind but professional. You did well in there. Kept him talking. Followed instructions. Most civilians panic. I'm not most civilians. The words came out more bitter than I intended. I've had practice staying calm when men are threatening me. Understanding flickered across her face. Jacob Kane's statement included details about your history. I'm sorry you had to survive that, and I'm sorry Costello weaponized it. Is he going to release the journals? The videos? He can't. They're evidence in a federal case, which means they're sealed. And even if he tried to leak them, his credibility as a defendant makes them worthless. Morrison slid a card across the table. But if you want to talk to someone, if you need resources for processing trauma, I have resources. I looked at Vincent, who sat beside me radiating protective intensity. Better ones than I ever thought I'd have. Morrison followed my gaze, and something shifted in her expression. Not judgment, but recognition. Mr. Moretti, a word? They stepped into the hallway, leaving me with Marco, who handed me water I didn't remember asking for. You did good today. Marco's voice carried approval. Most people freeze when guns are involved. You kept thinking. I was terrified. Terror and stupidity are different things. You were scared and strategic. That's survival. Through the conference room window, I could see Vincent and Morrison talking. His body language was tense, defensive, and I wondered what she was saying. Warnings about mob bosses and waitresses, probably. Reminders that protection could become possession. That power imbalances made consent complicated. She wouldn't be wrong. Every concern she raised would be legitimate. Vincent Moretti was dangerous, powerful, operating in a world with rules I was still learning. Getting close to him meant accepting that violence was always possible, that federal investigations were just part of the landscape, that safety was temporary and required constant vigilance. But she also wouldn't understand what I'd learned over the past 2 weeks, that Vincent had given me agency instead of taking it, that his protection came with respect for my choices, that the fear I felt around him was the good kind, anticipation instead of dread, the thrill of jumping instead of the terror of falling. When they returned, Morrison's expression was carefully neutral. Mr. Moretti has agreed to make himself available for additional questioning as needed. And he's assured me that your employment with his organization is entirely voluntary and can be terminated at any time without consequences. It is voluntary. I met her eyes directly. He's never forced me to do anything. Never made me feel like I didn't have choices. Good. Because if that changes, if you ever feel trapped or threatened, you call me directly. Morrison handed me her card. Day or night. No judgment, no questions about why you got involved with him in the first place. Just help. The offer was genuine, and I tucked the card into my pocket with gratitude. Because maybe I wouldn't need it, I hoped I wouldn't. But having an exit strategy felt less like doubt and more like wisdom. They released us after midnight. Danny had been moved to a new facility, actually new this time, in a building Vincent owned, with security that reported directly to him. No third parties, no David Chens waiting to betray trust, just controlled access and people whose loyalty had been tested by more than money. The drive there was quiet, both of us too exhausted for words. Vincent's hand found mine in the darkness, his thumb tracing circles on my wrist, the bruised one from Jacob, healing now but still tender. Agent Morrison gave you an exit strategy. His voice was careful, neutral. She did. That's good. You should have one. A way out if I become something you need to escape. I turned to look at him, at the exhaustion and vulnerability in his profile. Is that what you think? That I'll eventually need to escape you? I think I'm my father's son. I think I operate in a world that destroys innocent things. And I think you've already survived one man who said he was protecting you while actually hurting you. Vincent's honesty was brutal. I don't want to become another man you have to run from. Then don't. I squeezed his hand. Keep being honest. Keep giving me choices. Keep being the man who reads Dostoevsky at 3 a.m. and calls my stubbornness endearing. His smile was slight but genuine. The stubbornness is endearing and infuriating, sometimes simultaneously. Good. Because I'm not going anywhere. Not because I'm trapped, not because I'm grateful, but because I stopped, the words catching. Because? His voice was so gentle it hurt. Because I wrote about you in my journals. About feeling safe instead of afraid. About wondering if it was possible to want someone without losing yourself in the process. And I think maybe it is. With you. If we keep choosing each other instead of letting circumstances dictate the relationship. Vincent pulled the car over. We were close to the facility, but not quite there, and turned to face me fully. His hands cupped my face with devastating tenderness. I love you. He said it like a confession, like admitting to a crime he'd commit again. It's too soon. It's probably stupid given everything. But I love you. The way you left that note when you could have run. The way you protect your brother. The way you walked into a hostage situation because strangers' lives mattered more than your fear. I love you, and it terrifies me because everyone I love becomes a target. The declaration hung between us, huge and fragile and absolutely true. I love you too. My voice was steady despite the tears, and I know that makes me a target. I know loving you means living with federal investigations and enemies and violence that could show up any day. But I also know that invisible wasn't the same as safe. I spent 3 years hiding, and Jacob found me anyway. At least with you. I'm seen and protected instead of just hidden and hoping. He kissed me then. Deep and desperate and tasting like relief and fear and the strange alchemy of two damaged people deciding that healing together was better than surviving alone. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, Vincent rested his forehead against mine. We're going to figure this out. Build something that doesn't repeat our father's mistakes. Create a life where Danny grows up safe and you write in journals without worrying about them being weaponized. And I get to keep becoming someone worth your love. That's a big project. Good. His smile was real, warm. I've never been good at small ambitions. We drove the rest of the way in comfortable silence, hands linked, both of us understanding that choosing each other was just the beginning. The real work would be daily, learning to trust without losing independence, accepting protection without surrendering autonomy, building intimacy while maintaining the selves we'd fought so hard to preserve. Danny was awake when we arrived, playing video games with Marco like they were old friends. He looked up when I entered, his expression relieved. You okay? His 14-year-old concern broke my heart a little. The news said there were shots fired. I'm fine. I sat beside him on the bed, pulling him into a hug. Everything's fine. Costello's in jail. We're safe. And we're going to figure out what normal looks like now. Normal with bodyguards and expensive security. Normal with choices. I smoothed his hair back. And safety that doesn't feel like a cage. Vincent's going to help us build that. Danny looked past me to where Vincent stood in the doorway, and something passed between them. An understanding, maybe, or just recognition that the dangerous man had proven himself trustworthy. Okay. Danny's acceptance was simple, certain. But I want my own room, and better Wi-Fi, and we'll negotiate. Vincent's smile was genuine. I'm learning that Bennett family members are excellent at getting what they want through stubborn persistence. It's a gift. I stood, suddenly exhausted beyond measure. Danny, get some sleep. We'll talk about everything tomorrow. Will you stay? His voice was small, younger than 14. I know I'm too old to need my sister, but you're never too old. I kicked off my shoes, climbed onto the bed beside him like I had 1,000 times before. And I'm not going anywhere. Vincent appeared with blankets, tucking them around us with surprising gentleness. I'll be next door. Marco's outside. You're both safe. Vincent, I caught his hand before he could leave. Thank you. For everything. For believing me, protecting us, letting me make my own choices even when they were dangerous. Thank you for choosing me, for seeing past the reputation to the man trying to be better. His thumb traced my cheek. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we start building that normal we talked about. He left, closing the door with a quiet click. Danny was already drowsy beside me, his breathing evening out into the rhythm of sleep. Through the wall, I could hear Vincent moving around, protective even in rest, keeping watch in his own way. My phone sat on the nightstand. One final message from Agent Morrison. You did the right thing today. Both in facing Costello and in being honest about your relationship with Moretti. Trust your instincts. They've kept you alive this long. I set the phone aside and closed my eyes. Danny's warmth beside me, Vincent's presence next door, and the strange certainty that for the first time in 3 years, I was exactly where I chose to be. Not hiding, not running, not invisible, just seen, protected, and learning that love didn't have to mean losing yourself. It could mean finding the version of yourself brave enough to be vulnerable with someone who'd earned the privilege. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Federal trials, media attention, the ongoing work of building legitimate businesses from Vincent's complicated empire. The slow process of healing trauma, establishing boundaries, learning to trust without surrendering the independence I'd fought so hard to claim, but tonight I was safe. We both were, and that was enough. 6 months later, I stood in the kitchen of our new apartment, RA, a word that still felt foreign and right in equal measure, watching the city wake up through floor-to-ceiling windows that no longer made me feel exposed. The bulletproof glass was invisible, the security system so sophisticated it was nearly silent. And somewhere 3 floors down, Marco was starting his shift with coffee I'd learned he took with too much sugar and no shame about it. Vincent emerged from the bedroom in worn jeans and an undershirt, his hair still damp from the shower, looking nothing like the man who'd walked into Rosie's diner 8 months ago, in a suit that cost more than my rent. He looked human. Tired and real and mine in ways that still surprised me when I stopped to think about it. Coffee? I held up the pot, and he crossed the kitchen to kiss me instead of answering. Slow and thorough. The kind of kiss that said good morning, and I choose you, and we survived all at once. Coffee, he confirmed when we broke apart. And whatever you're making that smells like cinnamon. French toast. Danny's coming over for brunch before his physical therapy. Vincent's smile was soft. Over the past 6 months, he and Danny had built something I hadn't expected. Not quite father-son, but mentor and friend. The kind of relationship that formed when a 14-year-old learned that the dangerous man dating his sister was actually patient about video game tutorials and genuinely interested in his progress. How's the testimony prep? I poured coffee while he leaned against the counter, close enough to touch but giving me space to move. Exhausting. Vincent had spent the last 3 months preparing to testify in the federal case against Costello. Margaret says we're solid. David's cooperation gave them everything they needed, and my testimony just reinforces the timeline. But standing in front of a jury and explaining my father's empire is facing every inherited sin you've spent years trying to atone for. I set his coffee down. I know. But you're not testifying as Dominic Moretti's son. You're testifying as the man who cleaned up his operations, paid restitution he didn't legally owe, and built something different. The prosecution will make it sound noble. The defense will make it sound like I'm just a criminal with better PR. His smile was wry. They're both partially right. This was the work, I'd learned. Not the dramatic rescues or the federal investigations, but the daily reckoning with complicated truths. Vincent wasn't a hero or a villain. He was a man born into violence who chose differently every single day, and some days that choice was harder than others. Agent Morrison called yesterday. I flipped the French toast, keeping my tone casual. She wanted to check in. Make sure I still have her card. Good. Vincent's voice was genuine. You should have that. An exit if you need one. I don't need one. I turned to face him. But I appreciate that you want me to have it anyway. That you understand the difference between choosing to stay and being trapped. He crossed to me, hands settling on my waist. I never want you to feel trapped. Not by me, not by this life, not by anything. I know, and that's why I stay. The doorbell rang. Danny, early and probably starving. Vincent released me with visible reluctance, and I watched him transform slightly as he answered the door. Not a mask exactly, but a shift into the version of himself that was appropriate for public consumption. Protective, careful, aware that even in our secure building, we were never completely private. Danny wheeled in with the ease of someone who'd stopped seeing his wheelchair as a limitation months ago. New physical therapy combined with experimental treatments Vincent had quietly funded had improved his mobility significantly. He'd never walk without assistance. But the progress was remarkable enough that his therapist used words like unprecedented and inspiring. Lily. His 14-year-old wisdom was showing. You know Vincent can answer the door without you watching like he might disappear, right? I'm not watching like he'll disappear. I returned to the French toast, hiding my smile. I'm watching because I like looking at him. Gross. But Danny was grinning. Also, can I invite someone to brunch next week? There's this girl in my physics class. A girl? Vincent's interest was immediate and endearing. Tell me about her. And just like that, they were deep in conversation about Sarah Chen, who was apparently smart and funny and didn't treat Danny differently because of his wheelchair. I listened while I cooked, marveling at how ordinary this felt. How normal. We'd built this carefully over 6 months. Routines that felt safe, boundaries that protected without isolating, a life that acknowledged danger without being consumed by it. Vincent still had enemies, federal prosecutors still called with questions, the media still ran occasional stories about the mob boss and the waitress, spinning our relationship into whatever narrative sold papers. But we'd also built something real. Therapy sessions where I worked through trauma with a psychologist who specialized in abuse survivors. Quiet evenings where Vincent read Dostoevsky and I wrote in new journals, not hiding my thoughts anymore, but claiming them as mine to share or keep private. Family dinners with Danny where we argued about movies and debated whether pineapple belonged on pizza and did all the mundane things that normal families took for granted. My phone buzzed. Margaret. Costello took the plea deal. 25 years federal prison. No possibility of parole. It's over. I showed Vincent the message. Something shifted in his expression. Relief, maybe, or just the exhaustion of carrying tension for months finally releasing. It's over, he repeated quietly. The trial is over. I corrected gently, but we're not. We're just beginning. Danny looked between us with the particular wisdom of teenagers who understood more than adults gave them credit for. You guys are disgustingly in love. It's weird, but also kind of nice. Like having proof that good things can happen even when everything seems terrible. When did you get so philosophical? Vincent ruffled his hair, earning a mock protest. Since my sister started dating a guy who quotes dead Russian authors and my life got weirdly stable despite the occasional federal investigation. We ate brunch like a family, passing syrup, arguing about Danny's homework, planning his upcoming birthday party. Vincent had offered to rent an entire arcade, but Danny wanted something smaller, more normal. Just friends and pizza, and the freedom to be a kid without bodyguards watching from the shadows. We'd compromised. Pizza party at the apartment. Friends thoroughly vetted but not obviously. Security present but subtle. The kind of protection that allowed normal while acknowledging that our version of normal required more precautions than most. After Danny left for physical therapy, Marco driving, but in an unmarked car that looked like a regular SUV, Vincent and I cleaned up in comfortable silence. This was my favorite part. The domestic quiet that proved we could just exist together without drama or danger defining every moment. I have something for you. Vincent dried his hands, suddenly nervous in a way I rarely saw. I've been waiting for the right moment, but I'm learning that the right moment is just whenever we're both here and okay. He handed me a small box. Not jewelry. The size was wrong. But something that made my breath catch anyway. Inside was a key. Simple, silver, attached to a keyring that held a photo of Danny and me from last month, both of us laughing at something stupid Vincent had said. It's to my office. Vincent's voice was careful, vulnerable. The private one, not the public one everyone sees. Where I keep my actual books and my father's old journals and the things I don't share with anyone, I want you to have access to all of it. No locked doors, no secrets. The weight of the offer was enormous. Not romantic in the traditional sense, but intimate in ways that mattered more. He was giving me complete access to the parts of himself he kept most guarded, trusting me with the vulnerabilities he'd spent decades protecting. Vincent. I closed my fingers around the key. Are you sure? You're allowed to have private spaces. I don't need to know everything. I know. But I want you to see the man I'm becoming instead of just the man I was. And if there are days when that man disappoints you, days when my father's legacy shows through despite my best efforts, I want you to have seen enough of the whole picture to decide if I'm still worth the effort. I pulled him close. this complicated man who'd rebuilt his life around being better than his inheritance. You're worth it. Every difficult day, every federal investigation, every moment when your past tries to define your present, you're worth it. Even when I'm not sure I am. Especially then. Because I've spent 3 years believing I wasn't worth protecting, wasn't worth taking up space. And you've shown me that survival isn't just about staying alive. It's about building a life worth living. Let me show you the same thing. He held me like I was precious and fragile and stronger than he'd expected, all at once. And I held him back, this dangerous man who'd learned gentleness, this mob boss who quoted literature and funded experimental therapy and gave me keys to his most private spaces. We stood like that until my phone rang. Unknown number. My stomach still dropped reflexively. Old fear trying to resurface before logic reminded me. Costello was in prison. Jacob Kane was in witness protection in another state. David Chen was serving time and wouldn't be eligible for parole for years. But I answered anyway, because hiding from fear meant it won. Lily Bennett? A woman's voice, professional and warm. Yes? This is Dr. Sarah Martinez from the Institute for Neuromuscular Research. I'm calling about your brother's case. The experimental treatment we discussed, we have funding approval. We can start next month if you're interested. The treatment we'd researched but couldn't afford. The one that offered Danny possibilities beyond what traditional physical therapy could provide. Vincent had mentioned it to his medical contacts, and I'd assumed it was just conversation. But he'd actually followed through, actually made calls and pulled strings and done what he always did. Protected the people I loved by giving them choices instead of just safety. Yes. My voice cracked. Yes. We're very interested. When I hung up, Vincent was watching me with an expression I'd learned to read, hopeful and nervous and trying not to assume he'd overstepped. You funded it. Not a question. I made some calls. Connected your brother's case with researchers looking for candidates. His voice was careful. But the decision is yours. If you think I'm overreaching, if this feels like I'm trying to control, I kissed him. Hard and grateful and fierce. This feels like you seeing someone I love struggling and using your resources to create possibilities. That's not control, that's partnership. I'm learning. His smile was self-deprecating. Slowly, with frequent mistakes, we're both learning. I laced my fingers through his. How to accept help without losing independence. How to offer protection without demanding control. How to love people without trying to fix them or save them or make them smaller to fit our comfort zones. That's a lot of learning. Good thing we're both stubborn enough to keep trying. We spent the afternoon on the couch, Vincent reading, me writing in my journal, our bodies touching at shoulder and hip and ankle, connected without clinging. This was the life we'd built. Not perfect, not without complications, but ours in ways that felt earned rather than given. My journal entry that day was different from the ones Costello had read. Less about fear and survival, more about the strange alchemy of healing. About Danny's progress and Vincent's testimony and the way ordinary moments felt revolutionary when you'd spent years believing you didn't deserve them. I wrote about choosing love that didn't diminish me. About Vincent's flaws, his tendency toward control, his occasional retreats into cold calculation, the way his father's ghost still haunted his decisions, but also his growth, his willingness to be wrong, his commitment to being better than his inheritance. And I wrote about myself, about the girl who'd left an apology note and stayed to face consequences, about learning that honesty was strength, that visibility was survival, that being seen completely was terrifying and necessary and worth the risk. When the sun started to set, painting the city in gold and shadow, Vincent closed his book. I need to tell you something. The seriousness in his tone made me set down my journal. Okay. I'm stepping back from the remaining illegal operations. Completely. Margaret's been helping me structure legitimate buyouts, transfer holdings to people I trust to run them legally. By next year, everything I own will be defensible in court without ethical gymnastics. That's huge. I knew what he was giving up. Profit, connections, the last vestiges of his father's empire. What changed? You did. His hand found mine. Watching you rebuild your life, watching Danny thrive, seeing what's possible when you're not constantly managing crises created by operating in legal gray areas. I want that. A life where federal prosecutors call with questions, not warrants. Where my legacy is buildings and businesses, not body counts and cautionary tales. Vincent, you don't have to change your entire operation for me. I need you to know that. I chose you knowing what you were, what you did. I know, but I'm not changing for you. I'm changing for us. For the future where Danny brings Sarah over for dinner without worrying his sister's boyfriend might be arrested. For the possibility of something stable enough to build on. The implication hung between us, too big to examine directly. Future. Something stable. Building together. Is this? I stopped, afraid to name it. Are you saying what I think you're saying? Vincent pulled a small box from his pocket. Different from the one with the key, but somehow related. Both of them about access, about choosing to be known completely. Inside was a ring. Simple, elegant, with an inscription I had to tilt into the light to read, I stayed honest. I'm saying I love you. That loving you made me want to be better than I was. That I want to build a life with you that doesn't require exit strategies or federal investigations or wondering if tomorrow brings danger. He took the ring from the box, holding it but not assuming. I'm saying marry me if you want. Or don't. And I'll still be here, still choosing you, still learning how to love without possession. But know that you transformed me, Lily. You left a note when you could have run. And that changed everything. I looked at the ring, at this man, at the life we'd built from a parking lot accident and an apology I couldn't help but write. He was offering me forever, but a version of forever that acknowledged my autonomy, respected my right to refuse, understood that love was choice renewed daily rather than a single dramatic moment. Yes. The word came out steady, certain. Yes, I'll marry you. Yes to building something together. Yes to the messy work of loving complicated people. Yes to all of it. He slid the ring onto my finger and it fit perfectly. Not too tight, not too loose, just right in the way things rarely were but sometimes, miraculously, could be. We kissed as the sun finished setting, painting our living room in the colors of endings and beginnings. And I understood finally that this was freedom. Not the absence of fear or danger or complication, but the presence of choice. The ability to say yes to love without losing yourself. The strength to be vulnerable with someone who'd earned the privilege. Outside, the city continued its endless rhythm. Somewhere, Marco was coordinating tomorrow's security. Margaret was preparing testimony. Danny was probably texting Sarah, navigating teenage feelings with the same stubborn hope that had kept him fighting through therapy. And here, in an apartment protected by bulletproof glass and more expensive security than I'd ever imagined needing, Vincent Moretti and I sat together planning a future that felt impossible and inevitable in equal measure. I'd started this journey believing invisibility meant safety. I'd learned instead that being seen, truly, completely, without performance or pretense, was the only way to survive and actually live. The waitress who left a note, the mob boss who kept it, two damaged people who decided healing together was better than hiding alone. We'd face tomorrow's complications when they arrived. Tonight, we had this. Each other, chosen freely, loved fiercely, building something that honored our past without being imprisoned by them. And that was enough. If you made it to the end of this story, let us know in the comments which city you're watching from, and click the yellow bell to subscribe to the channel and support us. Keep the adventure going by clicking on the suggested video on your screen.